Seriously, talk to her, call her. I'll text you her number, because she'll clarify whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Let me get the clarification.
Yeah.
And just let me know.
Yeah. Okay.
It seems like a pretty generous offer.
So just to clarify though, Lee, you're under the impression she came in and said she was going to pay for all of your bolds, or all of anybody's bolds?
I thought that she said anybody in the class she was going to pay for to go.
Okay.
She said if that's the reason why you're not going, that she'll do something to get it covered.
Okay.
I never heard the discussion of 400, but I mean, even
well,
that is pretty amazingly generous.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind too, once you start knocking out once you start getting written contracts during bold, during that 7 weeks, technically 8 weeks, you start getting refunded $200 per transaction.
Well, then that can just go to Dottie.
Well, obviously if she pays for it, it will go to her first, and then if there's anything, let's say it's half and half, the first 2 will go to Dottie, and then the second 2 will go back to you. All you have to do is 4 written contracts in 8 weeks.
Yes.
The average for this market center is 12. Do 1/3 of what everybody else does, and it will be free. And you'll have 4 transactions closing. Simple math.
So it's good. I mean, it's good incentive, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, you gotta get this party started. I don't want to keep you up. Hold on,
Yeah.
I'm really. This is the small. I'm telling you, I have no less than 10 every other class.
Yeah.
Well, it's Paul.
I haven't heard that one yet.
All right. Awesome.
You waiting a few minutes? You start right
I'm gonna start right now. Are you gonna come over here, though, Lee?
I sure can.
You're so far away.
I know, right? I'll just
If there was.
He's afraid of us.
troublemaker away.
Yeah. There we go.
Join the crowd, right on.
Yeah, I'll send this up to you.
All right. All right.
Right here.
We may have a few more sprinkle in throughout.
Yeah.
We don't want to keep you guys waiting though, so we'll go ahead and get started right away. And we will, of course, start with Vicky's checklist, which you all should have in front of you as well. So go ahead and bust that out really fast. We'll spend the next few minutes talking about our mission from yesterday, between yesterday and today, technically. Mission 11 we should be on, and right at the top, 10-4. So we've been talking every week about the importance of the 10-4. Remind me, what are the 4 activities that we do 10 of every day?
10 contacts, 10 connections, 10 notes, 10 home inspections, like human homes.
Oh, so contacts, viewings, or previews. What were the other 2 that you said, Lee?
Just different connections for people.
Okay, so we'll call that contact, right?
Okay.
Note cards, and then what's the last one? Most important one. We add them
The
to
database.
database. So when you're making those 10 contacts, you should be automatically be adding those 10 to your database. Now you've got 2 knocked out. After you make contact with them, you write them a note card or a follow-up of some sort, and now you've got your 3rd box checked. So let's talk about our database for a few minutes. We all have command access, right?
Yeah.
Everybody,
Correct.
did you find, oh yeah, and did you successfully upload your contacts?
Well, I messed it up, but I started to get it going again on
Okay.
Sunday. I found I had to chunk out my Excel spreadsheet. It was conking out.
Okay.
So as long as I'm sending it up in like 20s or 30s, it's doing
Really?
much better.
Interesting.
Well, it could be my laptop too, or I
Okay.
was on a wireless connection too, so I don't know.
So then answer me this, how many contacts do you have total in commands today?
I don't know, I'd have to look. Over 100?
Over 100? And you have about 300 others, right?
Yeah.
I think we talked about 400 for you?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Excellent.
We're gonna have
Here, let's
Little
start
League
rolling
next
there.
weekend.
Vicky, talk to me about your database.
So I've been in the process of getting the information like full
Right.
and
Okay.
so I haven't uploaded them all yet.
Okay. So, ma'am, make a suggestion. Don't wait to get everything before you put them into commands. If you just have a name and a phone number, put it into command.
Okay.
Once you initiate contact with them and you're having conversations and you're getting their email address and you're getting their mailing address, add it to your existing contacts.
Okay.
Don't feel like you have to wait to get everything before you start adding them. Even if you just have a name and you're like, how am I gonna find, a Facebook friend, and you're like, geez, I don't even have their cell phone number. Put them in your commands so you don't forget about them, and add your tags and labels to organize it, and then you'll have a systematic way of making sure that you don't forget about them to get that contact information.
Okay.
So maybe it would go faster if I just did my contacts in there, like the contact information, and then go back and do like kids and birth dates and that kind of stuff.
Perhaps.
Go back, let's.
Now you're using the command Excel spreadsheet specifically to import.
Yep.
You should be able to put all that data right in the same Excel spreadsheet and
I
upload it.
know, but it wasn't. It was like thinking and thinking and thinking and.
It may have been the connection or your laptop. Yeah.
So I just started
I don't want to overburden you.
pulling chunks of it,
Yeah.
and it was at least getting up there.
Okay.
Maybe I'll actually go plug into the hard connection.
Okay. Well, you give us. We did your contacts yet?
Yes, yeah, and actually just yesterday I, got them all situated to shoot a mass email out.
Perfect.
And
So you start touching people.
from yesterday to today, just from your, Facebook thing, I just kinda sat on Facebook and went crazy looking at friends and, hey, haven't heard you in a while, they're sending
Yeah.
me the emails, they're at,
Share with the rest of the group the strategy there and what we talked about and what your plan is.
I was just having a hard time, figuring out where to get everything. When really the more I sat and thought, went on Facebook, it's like, holy crap, I know a
Yeah.
lot of people. And just sent them a message and saying, hey, connect. Didn't jump right into the script of just
Right.
kinda
Yeah, no, that's okay.
friend chat, and then next
Yeah.
thing you know, got emails, and so I actually gotta go in there before they send the thing out, cause I got, a handful more of names and emails.
Yep.
So it was really helpful.
So what I hear you saying is you got on Facebook, you started adding friends, and you started reaching out to people.
Exactly.
Did you get any ideas of what to post for content for yourself?
I didn't get to that yet.
Okay.
I haven't really necessarily, cause
Yep.
like I was telling Joe, I don't know really what I'm doing on Facebook. I feel like I'll send a message and then 5 minutes later I feel like I should have sent that message, or,
Oh.
so I don't really know how to put stuff. And once I do, I sure as heck don't know how to go back on there and take it back off.
Oh, no.
So,
Wait, Bold is calling your name.
Right.
I'm telling you right now, Bold is calling. That's exactly the kind of stuff we talk about at Bold.
sweet.
We address it specifically.
Sweet.
So I'm glad that you shared that with us,
Yeah.
and we'll take care of that.
It was
in the next few
helpful, it
weeks.
really was.
Yeah.
I mean, just sitting there feeling a little frustrated of not being able to throw any more on, in a couple hours, it's like, all right, now I got 9 more names and emails to just, blast out an email and
Mhm.
kinda keep in touch.
So one of the other things that we talked about yesterday was, what kind of content do I provide? What kind of value do I add to my database? Let's say I have 1,000 Facebook friends or 5,000 Facebook friends. Well, now what? What do I do? I reach out to them individually. Okay, how do I stay top of mind? Add content. Okay, but what kind of content? So one of the things we talked about was go search people either at Keller Williams in Maine or in Greater Portland. Contact people that you know they're using social media at a high level and see what they're doing. I'm not saying steal their ads, be inspired by their ads, right? Get some ideas, and when you're looking at what they're posting regularly, it may light bulb, oh, here's a really cool thing that I could do to customize that and make it my own, and use that, you know what I mean? And you can use these, you can get inspiration from, there's all kinds of investing websites on Facebook or pages. Real estate teams have pages, right? So go on there and just kind of look around and figure out what is working, what's not working, what you like and what you don't like, and create your own content based on that.
My thought problem is like, I'll see somebody that'll, they'll pull an article, they'll pull something from somewhere with great information, and it's like, okay, where the heck did you get that?
Mhm.
Definitely. Riz Media, Inman News, those are just great resources. So
Okay, then
you should
I'll
just,
write.
yeah, Riz Media sends an email every day, so you could actually, sign up for that, and then they'll have several different articles that they're talking about, and if you like it, post it. Make sure you read it.
Yeah.
Read it all, right, don't just
Make
read
sure
the
you read it
headlines.
before you
Not
post it,
posting
because if
it.
someone asks you about it, you're gonna wanna know what the hell you posted.
I want to say a lot of those websites too, when you go on there, aren't there links to share it directly to your social media?
Yeah?
Yes.
On the website. So that's, you go on the website, you find a cool article that you like, and then a lot of times, up like the top right corner, it'll say share on Facebook.
Right. Or Twitter,
And,
or
and
LinkedIn.
when you click it, it will bring it to your Facebook page for you.
Oh,
and then you
good.
can write a little
Yeah.
like, hey, just read this, check it out, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
And now it's what
I
you're
guess it's
seeing.
like I was at, you just answered my question, like, where do you find those? So
Yeah.
you just named 2 of them.
Yeah, very simple, very
Okay.
easy.
All right,
It's
cool.
like you don't
I'll-
even
I'll-
have to, you don't really even have to search.
All right,
Are you
fair
using
enough,
your
I'll write that
personal
down.
Facebook account, or have you set up, you have Joe Personal and Joe Realtor?
I personally, I just use my personal Facebook page. A lot of people set up business pages. Especially the big high producing teams will set up
Right.
Facebook pages because they have 4 or 5 or 7 or 10 agents all adding value and content to it. I leave it up to you. My justification is I've got 2,000 Facebook friends, and if I start a new business page, I've got 0 followers.
Right, and then you've gotta
So-
get them
You
to
gotta
go.
go through all of them.
and
So
go.
what I've been doing with so I did recently create a page, not for Joe Realtor, for Joe Investor, right?
Mhm.
And I recently created a page for that, and so basically what I'm doing is I'm creating all the content and adding it on Joe Personal, and I'm just tagging
Yeah,
until I have a bunch of content on there, until I
Yeah.
have 30 or 40 posts over 3 or 4 months,
Mhm.
and then I'm gonna start inviting people to like it. If you invite somebody to like a page with
That's
0
nothing
content,
on it,
Yeah, right.
and then they're gonna look at it and say, why would I want to like? I don't even know what this is.
Yeah.
So what I would say is start building that page over the course of the next
Mm.
2, 3, 4 months and
Mhm.
tag it always so stuff shows up there.
Okay.
But don't necessarily drive people to it until you have something there to add.
Good idea.
Cool?
Mhm.
Karen, why don't you give us an update on your database?
Oh,
My
database.
That was uplifting.
I mean, I've been reaching out to people, but I haven't been great about putting it into command yet.
Okay.
What's
What's the hurdle? What's the rock?
Die.
No, I'm just kidding.
I'm
I'm
just
just
kidding.
kidding. No. My idea was Sunday I was going to do that, but she wanted me to go to open house.
Okay.
No, but I was just trying to fit it all in. But she says I'm doing really great though, and I have started putting stuff into command, just not as much as I would like to.
Okay.
Because I want to get too detailed. I think that's what my problem is.
Yep.
Like if I want to start putting in like because I've been like
The
talking
birthdays
and
and-
everything, all
Yep.
this stuff, and I've got a lot of stuff like smoldering, which feels good, but I haven't been putting in just that like tons of my database. I mean, I've got it written down,
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of things of my people.
Yep. So a couple thoughts. The longer you wait to get into command, the more you're gonna have to
No.
backlog.
I don't know.
Right? Another note, when you're in there, there's 4 primary pieces of information we need for every contact. What are they?
Name.
Name.
Address.
Address, phone
Email.
number, email. In addition to that, of course, we can add birthdays and we can add notes about Susie Q is 6, the dog's name is Leroy, whatever the case. Whatever your conversation was with, hey, reconnected on this date, had this conversation, blah, 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 blah. Write super shorthand. You're the only person seeing these notes. So you can
Yeah.
be pretty specific with yourself and not write a lot.
Yeah.
Just another way to
Yeah,
save
that's
time.
true. I'm so used to CRM and having Big Brother looking over my shoulder.
Yeah.
In sales, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't have to write full sentences.
Seeing everything that I've done and stuff like that. So.
Phone call, discussed real estate, follow up Thursday. Dog's name is Buddy.
I'll get it in there. It's
Quick and
important.
easy. Okay, Paul, give us an update.
My e-edge page is working for me, but I mentioned before the KW command isn't running on my computer, and I know you said it was an internet thing, so it should, but it will not run on my computer. Heather put it on her tablet, and
Yeah.
it would work on
Uh-huh.
a tablet. I'm getting a new computer soon.
Okay.
Probably when I have a closing in 2 weeks, I'm just going to go buy a computer. And,
Excellent.
And I know I've got to transfer things from eEdge over to KW Command.
Okay.
But I've got about 150 people that I could just write their names and some information off the top of my head.
Yep.
A lot of that's on eEdge.
Perfect.
I've got, I don't know, I think about 300 friends on Facebook. A lot of them are like people just out of the blue. It's amazing to me how they connect you to people from 30 years ago, 35 years ago in high school.
Right.
I've got friends and family members of my younger sisters that are doing friend requests, and I'm just building that every day. But I do need a tutorial on Facebook.
Okay.
Rick posted the house that we have under contract on my, I guess you call it my timeline,
Yeah.
and a bunch of people sent messages to me, and I thought I was sending a message back to them to say thank you for the comments, but apparently I was just posting on my own damn timeline. So if there's a Facebook class or a Facebook guru,
We can do a
I will-
Facebook class.
all right.
Who feels like they could be more proficient with Facebook?
So,
Paul's not the only one? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't
Oh,
we do,
I like LinkedIn. I would like
Oh,
to
yeah,
learn
yeah,
LinkedIn.
no.
that would be good too.
learn what?
LinkedIn.
You know, I had
LinkedIn?
another agent
Yeah.
ask me if I was on LinkedIn at one point.
Why don't we do
Yeah.
a social media class? I'll talk to
Yeah.
Charlotte after to see where we can fit in the
Perfect.
training schedule. Make sure you come into the trainings so that you can get the information.
But
I'll plug it into the calendar.
what I used to do for Facebook, if I had my face buried in Facebook, I'd be missing customers coming in through the door at the car dealership. And so I just kind of kicked Facebook to the curb several years ago.
Yep.
And I'm just not proficient at it.
Yeah.
I
I
had to do
just
that
don't
as
know
a
what.
teacher too.
Yeah,
I have an
it's
undergraduate
a-
degree in new media, and I feel like I don't even really
Oh, I
know
know.
how to use Facebook effectively.
Yeah, it's great for this business, but I just thought it was kind of a time sucker for what I was doing before.
It's essential for this business.
Yeah.
I
It's
think.
essential.
Yeah.
Essential.
It is.
Paul just said he got a listing, he went under contract, he received multiple messages from people about it. So now all those people, now that's a great way to have, now you're starting conversations with people. Even if they don't want to buy or
Well-
sell right away,
Well,
they all have a sphere of influence, right?
they started a conversation with me. I'm trying to figure out how to.
We'll get you to respond. And that's a super important point. I'm glad you brought that up. Is if people are interacting with you, you need to interact back.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
If you're not
Yeah,
liking
yeah.
their post and you're not commenting back and saying thank you and engaging in conversations, their comments are going to disappear. So make sure that you're taking the 3 minutes out of your day to go in there, see who's
Yeah.
saying what, and interact.
3 minutes could turn to 45 minutes.
We'll,
Turn to
right.
2 hours.
we'll get there. And that's okay. And maybe you time block 1 hour a day or
Yeah.
1 hour every 3 days or every other day to do specifically social media.
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn,
Snapchat.
Snapchat.
Instagram's
Yeah.
good.
Instagram, yeah.
Instagram's huge.
Huge.
I don't know about with men, but with women, that's everybody I know. Instagram all day
Yeah.
long.
That too, yeah.
Huh.
Really?
Well, Seattle.
I don't even have that.
Yeah, I don't even have an Instagram account.
Literally, guys, I got my
CC.
accounts linked like 2 weeks ago because I didn't even know how to do it
Instagram?
either. So you're not far behind. If you're not familiar with how to use Instagram, I have 14 posts on there in my life.
Yeah.
So don't feel like you're behind.
My
Start
kid
today.
knows.
Start today.
made
And
them
tap into the
excited.
resources that you have.
Yeah, yeah.
Instagram.
Right?
Yeah, I should. Sure.
Hey, get over here. Show me how to use this thing.
Yeah, right on,
Right?
right on. So how many things do you suggest people get? I mean, LinkedIn, like how many different,
Well, there's a thing. I mean, there needs to be some balance, right?
can you just like say, okay, I'm gonna just focus on these two and then go out and try to
That's
talk?
Yeah, sure.
Probably pretty
I think
good.
ideal world, you would have all of them, and you'd budget time, and you'd be proficient enough with all of them to where you spend 15 minutes on all 4 platforms. So that's 1 hour a day.
Yep.
At the beginning, it's going to take you a little bit longer. So yeah, I would say start with Facebook, and then move to Instagram. Setting up your LinkedIn profile is quick. It's just like setting up a personal Facebook profile. So get that set up. So I mean, yeah, you can kind of tap them one at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself with them.
Okay.
Ideally, you'll use all of them.
Okay.
Alan, how big's your database?
Small.
Give me a number.
95.
And that's in command?
Command is not as big because I keep losing stuff in command.
We're talking about the command group.
So you have
Yeah.
95 contacts and less than that in command.
Yes.
So what's the
I got-
plan?
I think I have 35 on hand. I need to sit
Yeah,
down
I'm into that.
and really just plug everything in and just do it and hope it stays because I have had several things get kicked out of command. But
Do you have your information in an Excel spreadsheet, or are you doing it manually?
I'm doing it manually.
Okay.
Because I have never converted it to an Excel spreadsheet.
Okay.
So I'm going through like Facebook and my phone one at a time.
Command. Hey, fun fact, guys, just figured this out. There's a 66-day challenge for command. It's on YouTube. All you do is YouTube command 66-day challenge, and it's 66 days. And we're already I think we're already done with it. So you can watch all 66 in a row if you wanted to. And they're like 2 to 4 minute videos, and they each cover a different section of command.
Mhm.
Day 1 is literally how to log into command.
Mhm.
Day 2 is how to find your contacts. Day 3 is, whatever, and it progresses. And so if you watch these 2-minute videos, have your video pulled up here, have your command pulled up here, and walk through with them, whatever they're doing, you can walk through 10 or 15 days, right, the videos in less than an hour. So maybe you break the 66-day challenge into a 1-week challenge. And by the end of this week, you are now proficient with command.
Mhm. Yeah.
66-day challenge, YouTube it. And I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Luke.
Luke.
Yep.
Joe.
Joe, nice to meet you.
Give us an update. How is so you're with Jeff's team.
Yep.
Jeff Matea. Give us an update. What does your database look like?
703 people.
703. And how long have you been building that?
6 months.
6 months. Excellent. Are you getting good results from it?
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Good. 5 closed with 5 under contract right now.
Excellent. Where did you start finding those 700 people?
There's a lot of expired calls, Facebook calls.
Yep.
Talking to people out at restaurants, and bars, and things. I just moved to the area in September.
From where?
From Boston.
So look at that. An out-of-stater, let me pick on you for a second, an out-of-stater with little to no connections in the area, and he's built up 700 people in his database, 5 closed and 5 under contract. So if you're telling yourself a story that I'm not from around here, I don't have a big sphere of influence, and that's the reason why you don't have results, you can have reasons or results, right?
And I only got my first closing in January, so it all started like after the first. You know?
And it took a little bit of time to kind of build up, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It does. It does.
Where do you get how do you get phone numbers from expires?
Well, I do have the benefit of the team, so we have like bulk and things like that for expired calls.
Because that was my question I was going to ask you.
Guess who's buying that for you?
Who's that?
The PC program.
Did you get a vendor sponsor?
We have the sponsor. I'm waiting for the contract so that they can pay for a Vulcan type system so that I can start providing you guys with expired listings.
That's awesome.
Are they?
Now, can you find expired listings without me? How do you do it?
Yes,
Well, yeah.
and
See it. You can see
They're
it.
in the MLS.
Right.
Now, there's a little bit more legwork involved in that. It's a little bit more time consuming. It's not as efficient.
Right.
However, you can get started.
So if you-
I've got the vendor agreements. We've got to get the contract signed.
Isn't everybody going after expired though? Is that like, why would we
Why
wanna
not?
go
Be
in
better
there?
than whoever else.
Absolutely.
Go ahead,
I-
Paul.
you know,
I mean, I got plenty of other
everybody-
people I think I wanted to reach
I
out
think
to.
I think that's a great
More.
statement. You know, you think that everybody's going after them, but just remember, most people only going after them the first try.
Mm.
You know, some people are doing the second try. Very few are doing the third, and then you're going to be the one doing it the 4th or 5th time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
5 times your chances of getting that lead converted go up 90%. Because exactly what Paul just said.
Most people bow out after 1 attempt, you know, and then people are going to certainly bow out after 2.
Yeah.
It's the persistency that will win. So be persistent in this business.
Yeah, that third time you also don't look like someone who's just trying to grab something cheap and easy.
And
You're
to be
actually
honest,
trying to-
it's typically 6, 7, 8 times before you get it. So if you know that number, then it's easy to not get disappointed. Because if you know it takes 6, 7, 8 times to get a for sale by owner or an expired, and you've only done 3, it's like, hey, I'm 5 away, but I'll get it because I know I'm going to be, you know, more aggressive than Luke. I'm not just picking on you, Luke, but you know, because they're not going to win. Luke's not going to win. I'm going to win. And when you have that mindset, you won't fail.
Yeah, for example, I've had people that I haven't talked to at all. Like, I have time for every day to be calling expires, and there's obviously not that many expires right now. So I've called plenty of people, like 10 plus times, and had a few call me in the past week that have been like, dude, you just kept calling me. Like, that's why I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't talk to them at all. I just left them voicemails.
Mhm.
And they finally called me back. So it's just what you were saying, just consistency.
Yeah.
And how do you make sure you don't forget about people?
Put it in command, feature tab.
Yeah.
How much of an interval do you give in between follow-up calls?
Not many. Not
yeah.
much.
No?
It's
Yeah.
like spread out. I do daily for the first like week, and then every couple days, and then every couple weeks, and then that's usually what I do.
Do you ever schedule appointments to go and see a property that's expired, or do you wait until you have more contact?
Oh no, like if I get them on the phone, I'm trying to schedule an appointment immediately.
Who knows Jordan Belfort? Anybody?
Me,
What's he famous for?
the Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street. We've all seen that movie. Leo,
Oh, yeah.
Leonardo out there looking awesome. Talking about sales, right? Jordan Belfort's a real person. Back in I think the 70s and 80s, he was selling stocks.
Yeah.
He has a I just saw one of his like training videos recently. He talks about a conversation. You have the start of the conversation to the end. Ideal world, it'll be a straight line. This straight line is your script, right? So, hi, my name is Joe. I want to sell you a house. Can we set an appointment? Great, we set the appointment. That's an ideal conversation. Now, there's like boundaries, there's parameters. What the seller's trying to do, or what the client that you're talking to is what they're trying to do, is the way the conversation's going, is they start taking you off your script, right? And what do we call that when they take you off your script?
Objection.
They start giving you an objection. Your goal is to bring them back to the script. Then they give you another objection, and you want to get them back. So this is kind of the way a conversation goes. As long as you're staying within these parameters and kind of maintaining control of the conversation, you're good. How do you succeed in doing this?
Knowing how to handle the objections.
You know how to handle the objections. So going back to your question about, well, isn't everybody calling them? Well, maybe they're just not calling enough, and maybe they're not using the right language.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're getting defeated.
Yeah.
Maybe they don't know how to handle the objection, because what is an objection?
It's an opportunity.
An opportunity?
Yeah,
An
a
opportunity.
disagreement, yeah,
An
a
opportunity.
disagreement, right?
The definition I have for an objection is an unanswered question. Somebody's objecting to something I'm saying, it's because I haven't explained it to them well enough yet.
Right.
So then it's my job now to explain it to them better to handle that objection to get to the end of the conversation. So just kind of, this little visual kind of helped me like stay within the parameters. Don't let them get you so far outside, and the way that you stay within these parameters is by handling the objections, answering their questions, and providing them with information. Okay, I've taken over much too much time. I'm going to hand it back
Another
over to
3 hour
Paul.
class is now 2.5. So that's okay.
And we will get social media on our training schedule.
Alright, so I'm Paul McKee. I work on John Hatcher's team as a buyer agent. I've been in the business 16 years. So I've been a buyer agent, I've been a team leader, I've been a designated broker, I've been a listing specialist, and I'm back as a buyer agent. So I've served in a lot of capacities. I'm very involved with the Maine Association of Realtors. I'm on the board of directors, have been for several years. I was the president of the Greater Portland Board a few years ago, so just got off the board January 1st. So cycled through, spent 2 years as past president. Then treasurer for the Women's Council of Realtors. I'm involved with Maine listings, so pretty much everything that we touch in real estate, I'm involved, one way or another. So welcome. Today we're going to talk about close the deal, and basically the whole thing that we're trying to do is make sure that we get to the closing. Okay, I mean everything that we do leads up to that moment. And if we don't close, it's very frustrating for everyone. Your client, then they're going to have a negative attitude if they didn't close. They're going to think it's you. Could be them and their financing and everything else, but somehow they're going to blame you. So keeping the deal together, getting to the closing is really the main thing. So just today we're going to talk about, knowing the steps in that process, identifying your responsibilities, whether you're representing a seller, a listing, or a buyer. Common issues that can occur, and God knows every day now I see new issues. So, there's lots of common issues, but there are new issues we see every day, and I think I've seen it all after 16 years and working on a team and hearing stories of other members on our team and the issues they have. But the great thing about this business is we'll always see something new. We see a lot of things that are similar and repeat, but there's always something new. You want to learn how to really leverage your resources, and when I talk about that, talking about what makes you strong and solid is the team that you put around yourself. So that's going to be your lenders, your inspectors, your title people, all of those people that are involved in our business. You want to make sure you're leveraging yourself so that they are an extension of you. They are like your arm, and you know how to operate it. And so you've gotta make sure you've got people that you can really trust. You know, and I have one rule when it comes to lenders. If I can't get a letter from you on a Saturday or a Sunday, we don't do business. It's that simple. Now, one of the issues you'll have is if you're working with a banker, just FYI, try to get a hold of them on the weekend to get a letter. Not that I'm picking on bankers, but you gotta think about Bank of America, Wells Fargo, you know, TD, all these people. Can you really get a hold of them and get that letter in a time-sensitive moment? Right. And could that hurt your client in a multiple offer? So, things to consider, and that's what we mean by leverage. You know, surround yourself with a strong team. And then, you know, the last thing that really is about implementing systems and processes so that you can, you know, get referrals and you can keep everything together. And it sounds like you're doing a great job with your database. And by the way, it's not a database. I know it's been referred to that so far this morning quite a bit. It's data bank. Okay? So think about data bank because that is your money. So if you're not building your data bank, you won't be in this business. And one thing is, I'll just tell you, having been president of the board, you know, we've got 1,500 members at the Greater Portland Board, okay? Now, we have actually there's a training class today, one of the ethics classes that you have to take as a you know, coming into the business. And there's a lot of sales agents, and 80% of you will never get your associate broker license. So think about that statistic. 80% never get an associate broker license. 2 years and done. So, if you don't want to be one of those numbers, pay particular attention to your data bank. And I like the word bank because it's money. It means money to us. And when you think of it being that important, it takes priority over playing, you know, Minecraft at home or, you know, any of these other stupid things that we waste our time with. Okay? And the other thing about being a real estate licensee or in business, I just want you to remember, if you had to go, if you worked at any company, like a Walmart or Home Depot or whatever, you'd have to go in and punch a clock, and they would say, okay, I need you to do this, this, and this. And there's expectations and there's time frames. It's like, I need you to get that done before lunch, go to lunch, and then after lunch I'll tell you what else to do. You need to think about this business like that. You know, the unfortunate thing is we think we are independent contractors, which we are. But if we actually put the mindset that I'm punching a clock and there are actual expectations that I need to be lead generating, I need to be door knocking, I need to be previewing homes, I need to be calling people, writing notes. If you actually did that and were, you know, had that mindset, you would be very successful like Luke is right now. You know, 5 closings already, 5 under contracts. That's phenomenal for 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, kudos to you. So, you know, here's someone to just look at right now and say, what is he doing? You know, pick his brain. You know, I bet he's not playing Minecraft during the day all the time. Maybe occasionally. But that's his break. You know? So I want, you know, you gotta be purposeful in this business. And for those that aren't, it's great for the rest of us because I always said, you know, the funny thing is when you're president of the board, you don't have the power to just get rid of agents. That'd be awesome, you know. But it's too easy to get your license in this business. You know, you pay $500. You know, you go through, you know, a month worth of weekend classes or whatever, and the next thing you know, it's like you got your license. You take a test and you get your license. But if you wanted to be a hairdresser, you'd have to spend $15,000 and do some very intensive schooling and training before you could ever, you know, become a licensee. And our business is way too easy to get into. And then a lot of companies will just say, okay, you know, congratulations, here's your desk, here's your phone, good luck. Luckily you chose Keller Williams, which is phenomenal because we've got the best education in the world. And we're known for that. And not just real estate, but we're the best training company in the world. So we've got great tools, and we don't like, I mean, we're always willing to share. So it's not like I'm going to say, well, I'm not telling you how I did this or whatever. I mean, we want everyone to be successful. But when you got 1,500 agents in an area, my God, our board used to be 400 people, so just imagine we went back to 400 people. But we had 400 quality people. We could do all the transactions that 1,500 people do, very easily. And the consumer would be served better because you got 400 top-notch people making sure that they're doing a professional job. They're not like, I'll get back to you at 5 when I punch out of Home Depot. You know, so think about your database as your data bank. That's a huge shift in your mindset. Okay? So we're going to talk about a lot of things. You guys all have all the books and pages to follow along. You don't, Luke, but you can share, right? Okay.
Closings and we can share a book, all right?
So we were talking about the 10-4, and I know George just went over all that, but you know, every day you should be adding 10 people to your data bank. Okay, you should be writing 10 note cards to people, and they could be totally different people. But you could also have just met someone today, and you're adding them to your data bank, and then you send them a note card just saying, thanks for talking with me today. It was great, you know, to find out more about you or whatever. It doesn't really matter. And I think you were talking earlier about, you know, what I put in there. Big thing is just get a name and get another source of how can you reach out to them. Is it their email? Is it a phone number? You know, you've got now something to go by. You got a name and at least email. So the next time you reach out to them, then you can ask for something else. Okay? Because you want to build your data bank. You build it, you feed it, and you communicate with it every day. Those are the big rules of the data bank. Build it, feed it, and communicate with it. Okay? So it's okay to be missing something. That gives you a purpose to call them a second time and say, oh, I know you said you're married. What's your wife's name? Because a lot of times you don't know their partner's name, right? Now, how many of you ever go to a store that in your neighborhood or an area that you live nearby, you go all the time and you don't know someone in the store? Like CVS,
Yeah.
Shaw's, right? We all do it, right? So think about this. If you don't know them, they may not know you, right? Pretty good odds. Is that a potential new person for your data bank? Now, I have a rule about people and so forth. There's really only two types of people as far as KW is concerned, as far as I'm concerned. People you know and people you don't know. We call them Mets and haven't met. So you know what I'm talking about, right? You've gone over all that. So there's only two types of people, right? Mets and haven't met. So if I don't know you, then it's like, okay, great. Maybe I need to find out more about you. Do you own? Do you rent? There's a great question. You know?
I struck that at the lady getting me balloons. She was the assistant manager at Kingsbrook for a little house.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy him back.
Yeah.
I'm gonna chase her down if she doesn't call me.
Right. Yeah. And you know, of course, you always want to make sure you ask the question, do you have an agent?
I did.
Yep. And that's always one of the first questions out of your mouth anytime you get in any kind of dialogue with someone. Because you don't want to spend a half hour talking to someone only to have them say, yeah, I'm going to call my agent Paul McKee. Great talking to you. You know? So that's probably the first question we always should be asking, because you could just cut your conversation short and say, great, call your agent. You know, people are notorious for calling about a listing, and it's just, you know, because they're not programmed correctly, the consumer. They'll call a listing number, right, and ask about a property, and then so let's say the call gets passed to a buyer agent, me, on a team. Hi, you know, and if I don't do my due diligence and ask the right questions right away, I could spend time talking to them only to find out, oh yeah, well I have an agent, but I just want to find out more about the property. And I could have easily said, just call your agent. You know, that's why you have one. Okay? So just think about the people you don't know. Every one of them is what we talked about earlier. You heard the word opportunity. So if you don't know someone, that's an opportunity for you to get them in your data bank. Because if you don't get them in your data bank, the odds are another realtor is getting them in their data bank. Right? And you don't want the other realtor to get any of that. You want to be the one getting all of it. Okay? All right. So that 10-4-4-4, it used to be 10 contacts a day that you had to, put in your data bank, 10, note cards. Then you went out and, previewed 4 properties as well, every day, not like in a week. So, it's changed a little bit, it's a little bit easier for you, but it's really not hard to meet 10 people in a day. I could walk down 2 aisles in Shaw's and probably meet 10 people. And it wouldn't take me 8 hours in a day to do that, right? So keep that in mind when you're out somewhere and you see someone, and I like what you said, Luke, about, restaurants, bars. I mean, people are always talking about real estate. If you actually listen for a few seconds, you'll hear a real estate conversation going on somewhere. And when you hear that, you might as well have your card in your pocket, right? How many of you have your cards on you? So it's like I always carry a few just because you never know, hey, right? Always have some cards with you. Now the other thing you could really do if you really want to make it easier, where you're not being the aggressive person all the time, wear apparel. Wear the Realtor pin. Grab a hat that says Keller Williams or a shirt. Don't be what I call a stealth agent. A stealth agent is like the stealth planes. They're supposed to be undetected. You do not want to be an undetected realtor, right? You want everyone to know you're a realtor. It's not realtor, okay? It's realtor, all right? So make sure you're wearing a realtor pin. People know what it is. A hat, a Keller Williams. So next time I see you all, you'll be wearing it, right?
Yeah, don't order.
Right.
It's coming. Don't
Right.
order.
That will make it easy. So just, I think that, if you're doing the discipline of the 10-4-4, 10-10-10-4, you'll watch how your business grows like Luke's. All of a sudden you have 700 people in your database and you got a bunch of under contracts. Okay? Any questions? Any ahas?
Feed it. I think the feed it part
Perfect.
is definitely what's going to stick with me.
Good, good. Build it, feed it, and communicate with it.
Yeah.
Keep going back. So, good. So we all know what that's all about. Okay. Now, here's what I want you to say. I feel great about what I am accomplishing every day. I feel great about what I am accomplishing every day. Go.
I feel great about what I'm accomplishing every day.
Okay, that was pretty piss poor, right?
I feel great about what I'm accomplishing every day.
All right. Okay, I'm only hearing one person.
That's because I'm the loud one.
Hold on.
Say it, let's go.
I feel great about what I'm accomplishing every day.
Say it like you actually mean it.
I feel great about what I'm accomplishing today.
One more time,
I
if you
feel
really
great
mean it.
about what I'm accomplishing every day.
Accomplishing every day.
All right, good. All right, you gotta feed yourself too. So, we got a data bank that we talked about, and I love that your aha was feed it, but you have to feed yourself too. And just remember, if you are doing the basic steps, and these are just basic steps, that statement will be so true for you, okay? So, don't doubt yourself. I mean, you remember, the first time you guys were saying it, how strong was that? Lots of doubt, right? Second time was pretty poor too, right? But by the time you did it the third time, it really sounded like you believed in yourself. And you should believe in yourself. There's no reason not to. It's the people on the other side that are realtors that don't have the training that we have that will be doubting themselves, because you guys are going to be far superior. You've gone through all these classes. You've got the materials there. Just keep going back through it. And I've been doing this 16 years. Do you think I can keep learning?
Yeah.
Do I know it all? No. Have I seen a lot? Do I know a lot? Yes. But do I know it all? No. So I can keep learning. That's one thing I love about this business, even at my age of being 106. I am still learning. Okay? So when you're on the phone, and this was great here, going back to this, we know what our script is, and the very last part was what? Do you remember? What Jill said? Appointment. Exactly. So here's a great thing about this. You could lose track of what you're supposed to say in the script at some point, but if you really want to get focused, your only goal is to get the appointment. And the big thing about a conversation on the phone with someone, whether it's a FSBO expired or just someone who's, you know, calling in and calling 3 agents to, you know, have you come out and do a CMA. The only thing that matters is the appointment. So you don't need to sell them on the phone. You know, can you sell yourself better in person or on the phone?
Person.
Right. Anyone think they can sell themselves better on the phone? So if you can do it better in person, then get the appointment. Don't do everything on the phone. So that script about, well, and then they ask me, they throw me and say, well, what do you do different from marketing? That's a great question. And I am so excited to show you that. When can we get together? Not say, well, I put it on ListHub and it goes to, you know, 60 different sites. Well, that's really not different, but, you know, they may think it's different. So whatever your script is, you know, the bottom line is at the end of that day, that script needs to end with the appointment. Okay? So whether they get you off track or you get off track, just remember the appointment is the only thing you care about on a phone call. So whether they're calling in to see your property or they want you to come out and do a CMA, whatever it may be, the appointment's the only thing that matters. Okay? So I love that little drawing. Thank you, Joe, putting that up there.
Hey, you're welcome.
You know, the script is great.
Happy to
but
help.
End of the day, it's all about the
It
appointment.
is helpful, for sure.
Right. Don't forget to, when you're on the phone, it's never gonna hurt to ask for a referral, right? What's the worst thing that could happen?
They can't think of
I don't know.
anything.
Right, and then you just thank them for taking a second to think about it. You know, Paul, thank you for taking a second to think about that. I appreciate it. Now, could you do me a favor? If you do think of someone, could you give me a call?
Certainly.
Thank you. Wow, that was hard.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I think the biggest fear of picking up the phone is just being rejected. I think we all know that, right? So the best thing about this business is being rejected. We're gonna get rejected a lot. It's okay. You know, the funny thing is, I've never seen anyone get shot over the phone. So when you call someone and they're rude, you caught them at a bad time, you don't know what they're going through, you know? I'll give you an example. You know, like Friday, I was at the hospital all day with someone, a family member, who had 2 surgeries. Now, you know, if someone calls me, I'm not in the best mood right then. So it's possible you caught me at a bad time. So always when you call someone, just ask them, did I catch you at a bad time? And some people say yes, some people say no. You know, the no's are good, you know, so you can continue. If it's bad, just say, you know, great, I'm sorry, I'll call you back another time. No harm, no foul, right? So if you get someone in a, you know, if you give them an opportunity to answer that question, you're also building some rapport with them. So ask it. It's not gonna hurt. You can always call them back.
They might even apologize the next time you call them back.
How about calling someone you haven't talked to in a year, right? So if you're the first one to call, you know, you are reaching out and you're like, hey, you know, I'm sorry I haven't called you in over a year, or we haven't spoken. I'm sorry. What are they probably gonna say?
Oh, I'm
Same
sorry
thing.
too, yeah.
There you go.
I know, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it.
Right. So you're taking responsibility, but you know, they're just as responsible, and they usually will acknowledge that as well. So that fear you had about reaching out to someone who I haven't talked to in 3 years, right? Well, do it. Do it on our break. Call someone you haven't talked to in 3 years and see how that goes, and apologize first. Maybe that's what we'll do, okay? Because it can be very empowering, and what comes from those conversations. And, you know, so just don't be afraid is what I want to, you know, make sure you're not. Fear, false evidence appears real. We always are projecting what's going to happen to this conversation before the conversation occurs, right? There's no need to do that.
But one thing though, if you're calling somebody that you haven't talked to in 3 years,
Yeah.
and you don't also, like, you've got to talk about, you're probably going to be on the phone for a little while because you've got to talk about other stuff before you start getting into.
Yeah. But you're building
and,
rapport.
You know, yeah, right. You're saying, oh, you know, yeah, how are things going with you? You know, finding out more about them, and then I'm sure they're gonna ask you, it's like, oh, did you know, I actually started working for Keller Williams,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of thing.
Well, and remember.
Then that can get you into it, I guess.
And you don't wanna be a stealth agent, right?
Right.
So you want everyone to know you're a realtor now. Now, the last time they spoke to you, you might have been working at LLB.
Mhm.
So now you've got a new story to tell. And maybe you can tell them why you went into it. Whatever.
It's just wording.
You're building rapport. So I want you to think about your calls too. Is it's important to make sure you're making your calls, but it's not important to say, well, okay, I gotta get in and out of this conversation in 2 minutes. Right?
Right.
Cause maybe they got something heartbreaking to tell you too. So just remember, every call is a different opportunity, and you gotta have that skill set to maneuver. Is this just a quick, turn and burn phone call? Or is this a caring phone call, a building rapport phone call, whatever it may be? So, but if you're doing your calls, now let's face it, how many people here can't make 10 calls in 8 hours? Right? If you had to go to work and they said, I need you to make a phone call this hour, would that be tough to do? No. Right? So remember, think of it like they tell you what to do when you go to work. When you're in this business, there's no one telling you what to do because, oh my God, let's go get our nails done. Let's go get our hair done. Let's go to a ball game. Let's go grab a drink or go to eat lunch. We have no discipline. If someone gives us a better option than making phone calls, we're doing it. Right? It's just what it's like. So, just think about those things. So your only goal, really, the real goal, are 2 goals. Ask for referrals, ask for an appointment. Okay? It's not going to hurt to ask. And thank you for thinking about it. And we don't need a real powerful script for that, do we? Thank you. I'm sorry. Those are pretty easy things to remember. Sorry we haven't talked in 3 years. I've been bad. No, I've been just as bad. Okay. Questions? Do you guys have a list of people to call today? Okay. Does anyone in this room know someone they haven't talked to in a while that they probably should be talking to?
They're probably at work.
That's okay, send a text thing.
Yeah, but isn't it amazing how many people still answer their cell phone at work?
It shouldn't happen unless you're in this type of business.
But even like you said, you were at work and you were on Facebook.
Yeah, and that I realized I had to get the hell off of it.
Right. So I imagine sometimes they answer their cell phone because maybe there's a problem at home too.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So let's take the next 7 minutes and let's call someone that we haven't talked to in a long time. Okay? And just apologize. See how it goes. And if you've got someone else that you need to call that is, on your list of, just getting into your data bank, call them too. Now I know in our, just FYI, in here, we've got people outside your area, and there's a script here for it. We're not gonna go over it, but there's a script for even calling someone outside your area and letting them know you're doing real estate. And a good example is, Luke, you said you came from Boston, so you call someone from Boston, let them know you're doing real estate here. So if they know anyone who wants to move to Maine, they think of you. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, it's 7 minutes and I haven't heard anyone on the phone. Get your head in the game, let's go.
Ew.
Did you say it had to be at least a year?
I'm just giving an example. I mean, I want you to call someone you really haven't reached out to and just apologize and watch how that goes. Take that accountability you haven't called them, and watch how they quickly say, I'm sorry too, I haven't called you.
And asking for a referral at the end of the conversation?
Yeah, always.
Okay.
It's not gonna hurt.
Not necessarily an appointment, I mean, someone I call
Right.
out of the blue that I haven't talked to in 3 years.
Right.
Heaven, what's going on,
Might
buddy?
think it's a little cheesy that I'm asking
Long
to
time
meet
no
for an
talk.
appointment.
No, but let them know what you're doing,
Yeah,
What's it been, about
No.
a year now?
and then say, oh, by the way, if you happen to know anyone,
okay.
would you think of me?
Jeez Louise. Alright, yeah, sorry
Simple
about staying in
stuff.
touch.
I mean, these
Oh,
scripts
what's
aren't
been going
that
on?
tough.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, how's her new house? Yep, that's pretty normal. Oh, that's cool. Which builder did she use? Oh, nice. They're literally right across the street from where I live. Yeah. How's work been going?
Yep.
Yeah. Say that first part again. Yeah.
Good, I'm in class, what do you need?
Excellent.
The number? You ready?
Two more, man. Two more. Yeah.
How we doing, lady?
Yeah. Making it happen.
Hey, Tom,
One, two.
how's it going?
1-9.
Oh, not
Foreclosure.
too much, I'm sorry, I haven't
No,
stopped in
they
recently.
were just
or-
people selling.
or,
One was a friend of a friend that
called
wasn't
you
able
or
to for
Chris,
sale. One was
but,
just regular
well,
old
I'm
listing on the MLS.
10,
I'm working for
30,
Keller Williams
1,000.
right now, and I'm taking a class down in Portland.
Nope, just buying,
Yeah.
renovating, and reselling. Yeah.
Yeah,
Still doing real estate though as
I got
you know
my
career. That's
license
kind of like the side hustle.
It's been a while.
2 months ago.
Yeah,
Oops.
still Monday through Friday.
Getting started with
Is that what you're doing
you know,
for,
buying, selling,
for your
working
regular
with
things?
clients.
How have you been?
And then I don't know if you've seen
How's
them
it
my
going?
course
Busy?
right now.
You selling a lot of trucks at the truck center?
I'm at Shane.
Good for you. It's been a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
I think it's in Hollis that they're looking for a cleaner.
Yeah?
Yep, so that's why I really wanna get together and try to get going.
Yeah, it is. Small town,
You
man.
coming up to Maine on Thursday night?
I thought.
Well, what's your work schedule typically like, man? I think we're about due
You should
for
stop
a
by.
couple
Oh,
of
yeah,
cocktails,
okay.
couple of maybe a little Applebee's run.
And see what you guys are doing.
I know. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. What are you doing up here? What kind of work are you doing up here?
I'm trying to figure out a system.
Oh, yeah,
so
okay.
that I can-
That's a
that I
big thing
can
right
move
now.
off of that completely.
I've got training here at the office until right around 6, so
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
maybe a little bit later.
Where
I'll
are you
actually
where are you
start.
going up to? Is it further up or?
Grab a couple, little something,
On the
somethings.
first Point Road in Wiscasset.
Alright,
Yeah, my first one.
I just got this, I just
Yeah,
got
yeah,
this.
okay.
Well,
Nice.
I look forward to.
Yeah, you should we should meet
I
up
got,
on
you know, those
Thursday.
like coupon books for like the college.
Get a drink or
let's see,
something,
looks like
or you can come by and
lacrosse.
see the house.
Absolutely, man, be a pleasure to catch up with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
For sure.
I've got like
Everything else
8,000
going good?
coupons,
Have
and
a
I'm
great day, lady.
notorious for not using them, so we're gonna go to one of these places. Geez, we can either get chocolate chip pancakes at IHOP, or we can go on a date to Cinemagic.
Really?
Take your pick,
Yep.
buddy.
Different girlfriend.
How long has she been doing that?
Let's see.
So
I've got
that's
Texas
going well.
Roadhouse. I've got
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to see you, man. It's been probably
let's
a
do
couple
the
years.
Roadhouse, man.
What did you say
Sorry.
about those,
Tomorrow
websites?
6:30.
What's that?
Today, brother.
It has been.
Have a good night.
It has been.
IN.
Yeah, sorry, it's
Wow.
been, you know, I try to
Yeah.
keep in touch, but,
News?
you know, obviously things get busy.
And then Riz Media.
lose track and whatnot.
RIS Media.
Oh,
I know,
without a doubt.
Joey just
Without a
nailed that
doubt.
exercise.
But that's
Yeah.
Instagram?
Exactly.
Somebody have one of my good
I
friends.
know your
You
mom
do
is,
Instagram?
Give him a jingle.
Mhm.
Alright, thank you, sir.
No way.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah, give me a call.
And so you just
I'll
kind of
reach
punch
out to you
the
for Thursday.
websites up and they just, there's just all kinds of just
Yeah.
stories.
That's right. Wow, dude, that's funny.
They already know
funny.
that we.
Well,
I
yeah,
probably can't see
enjoy,
it. Every day.
enjoy,
No, don't go.
you know, we're
Well,
driving and
Yeah,
whatnot.
well,
Talk about
we're
Thursday.
more honest up front.
We
Provided
talked
that
about
they weren't, they weren't
Yeah.
honest, but.
I've never used it before, I
What's the
might
big deal?
stop in there and ask them to show me how to use it.
None of those you want.
Because it has to go find somebody else to
Yeah.
need it for you to come down to match it.
Alright.
That's the way I look at it.
So, you know, you read the article, make sure you want to.
Oh, really?
We don't wanna promote Zillow.
Sorry if you have to deal with the harassment.
Which is
Awesome.
weird, cause I go on
Awesome.
Facebook
Well-
and there are a
well,
lot of
Tom,
top agents.
Unless they wanna come down
around and
to
ask
to
friends.
$50 a month, and then we can use that
You ever hear
to
of-
leverage
They offer you
paychecks
to get
to come.
leads from Zillow.
What that happened to do?
What's that?
They offer you, like, you can go on Zillow.
I'll
and
think
buy
they're
it.
gonna
drop some cards off also.
Well,
It's
Maybe
amazing
you said
how-
they were gonna give us
Just
three.
think
Yeah, that's
Zillow
fine.
is-
I'll change it, I'll send it back to you,
Zillow
don't
is
sign it yet,
already
because we'll switch it over first.
So anything you wanna pay him,
I think we're
you're
okay.
crazy.
I'll probably be able to get that over to you.
Yeah,
He
no,
gave me his, like,
it's
right now.
I think all these
It's
paychecks
just
call,
very
and
good.
I'll
Be
be
able to
all
figure
over.
it out.
I
I guess they work with smaller
You
businesses.
talk-
Well,
And then I've heard some others, like,
Alright,
Yeah.
okay.
You know, what I was thinking.
Yeah, I mean,
Is, and
And
There's a
plus,
whole
I
different
really
mindset
appreciate
to
our
it.
paychecks for
the
free.
reality
We have to
is
get
that
4
we as
pages.
agents
She said basically
them
just 2
to
people.
steal that data.
Let's
right,
make that, let's.
and that's exactly
If I
what I
was
heard from
if I
you.
kept
For my
talk
review.
to Brian's boss.
every
We were gonna
customer
talk to
that I had
Ed.
16 years.
Paychecks.
So, can you imagine that?
I'm gonna go talk to Dan McGarren right now.
Okay, I'm gonna be gone.
Okay.
So just call me if you need
See you.
anything. Alright,
That's, you say, you, oh my goodness. But you could find them, you know, if you, jeez. Right. Awesome. Well,
Hi, Casey, Karen Bell here, a long time, wow.
wow. Well, Tom, I'm gonna have to stop in down there. Sometime maybe even later this week. And it was nice catching up with you, but break's over for class, so I gotta get back to it. All right, talk to you later.
So much for the,
All right, yep, bye.
for the like on, LinkedIn, getting on LinkedIn, don't mind if I.
Well, that wasn't so hard.
Hey Michelle, it's Luke from Keller Williams Realty. Just wanted to touch base. It's been a little bit since we last spoke, and just wanted to see how you're doing. See if there's any houses that you've seen recently that you want to meet up in person to look at. So give me a call back. Number is 207-389-7115. Oh, it'd be awesome to hear an update about
Tom
the
says
mortgage
that he
stuff
has.
as well. I know you were kind of going through the application.
20-something years.
So if we could just touch base and just talk it all over, that'd be awesome. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Alright, give me a call, talk to you soon.
Someone.
Just, I've been getting, voicemails right now.
Yeah.
But it's good to know that their phone number's still the same.
Yeah,
For
okay.
my database, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so are we all done? Or wrap it up? Everyone at least make the call?
Yep.
Okay.
connect with you and just
This
how
is
you're
what, my passwords
doing,
are correct.
what you're up to.
Trying to sign in, I can't see this.
Old money at
how
KW
you're working,
2015.
new home and everything. Anyway,
That's what you've
just
used?
wanted to connect with you.
Well,
I
for a
actually have
while.
free Wi-Fi,
Sorry,
so I.
One says KW
Yeah.
Court, one says
Works.
KW Gas.
Yeah, works way better, yeah.
KW Gas is
Oh, you know
home
what?
sale
This-
at KW.
I think I didn't make these stuff also.
5760, no, text me if that's easier, but, yeah, it's good, right, talk to you.
All right, everyone done? Okay. So I'm sorry, in the back, who are you?
Alan Taylor.
Alan. All right, tell us about your call. What call?
I just contacted 3 people on Facebook and 1 email, and I followed up on an email. I need to a buyer who came through an open house this weekend and is looking to sell a duplex and buy. Mom and dad are tenants in this duplex, and they are either going to be calling me.
Okay.
So I have an appointment with them at 2 o'clock on Saturday.
Good.
I'm just trying to make sure that I take very, very good care of them.
Yeah, okay, all right. Calls, Paul?
I called a fellow named Tom Thomas who works at a used car place up in Wiscasset, and I've worked with him for many years. It's been just about a year since I talked to him and had a great conversation, and he told me all about
Mary, what kind of conversation?
I had a real estate
A
conversation.
great conversation, right?
Yeah.
Oh, he didn't chew your head off?
No.
Oh,
No,
okay.
and Tom wouldn't. You know, I was pretty selective of who I called.
Yeah.
And I knew Tom's a big teddy bear.
But it's been a year.
Yeah, and he was excited to tell me all about his friend's daughter who's killing it in real estate in Denver, Colorado. And,
Cool.
and he said, I asked him if it would be all right if I stopped and gave him some of my cards, if he could think of anyone that was buying or selling real estate, and he said, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
No equivocation in his voice. He's
Yeah.
like, stop in.
Right, good.
Yeah.
Now, a little follow-up on that. It was his friend's daughter, he said?
Yes.
So maybe next time you maybe find out who the friend's daughter is, and you can reach out to her and build a referral basis from Colorado to Maine. Where, hey, I'd like to do some referral business with you.
Okay, great.
And
And a
you
lot of
can even
people move from Maine to Colorado
And you can
vice
explain
versa.
that to your buddy, saying, is there any way you can give me her number, because I'd like to, refer her business if I have someone moving to Colorado.
Awesome.
And he might be more willing to get her number for you.
Yep.
So, always think.
Okay.
See how that works?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have somebody calling me right now, but I don't want to answer it. Come on.
Yeah.
It's an old tenant. Mine, like from like way
Well, you
back.
got voicemail. We'll go to
Yeah, I'll
voicemail.
go to voicemail.
Yeah. It's probably not a 911 call.
No.
Alright.
It's kind of awkward because it's so funny. It's like it's an old, like, going way back in the archives of my phone.
Yeah.
And
What are you going to do
Is
if
that
they're calling
someone-
you for a rental reference?
What?
What do you-
No. He bought a house with his now wife. They were it was his girlfriend at the time. Yeah. I mean, I just haven't seen.
And
him
did you
or
reach
talked
out
to
to him, or is he just happen to be calling in now?
No, I just reached out to him, and now he's calling me back.
Oh, good.
But he works for Maine Med. Could be a good.
Yeah, so
Good
you had
contact.
reached out, and you left a voicemail,
Well,
and
that's
now he's
voicemail.
calling
Asked
you
him to
back.
give me a call. I just said, I'd love to catch up, find out how you and Jen are doing. It's been a while, and
Mhm.
hope you guys are doing well, and liking your new home.
Now, I'm gonna just guess that in his voicemail, he's not gonna say, I don't know why the hell you're calling me. Okay? Gonna guess that it's gonna be a different type of voicemail message. Good. Did you call anyone else, or just him?
I called 3 other people, but I got voicemails.
Okay, alright.
I called a few people and got voicemails, which was expected, so I flipped over to Facebook and sent 6 messages.
Okay.
Oh, and then while I was making a phone call, my husband called.
Yeah.
So I got to talk to him too. Needed my license to submit taxes.
And you probably talked to him, and, it hasn't been more than a year.
Yeah, I know, well, except he's submitting my taxes, which I
Yeah.
really need him to do, so.
Yeah. How'd you do?
I talked to a friend I haven't talked to in about 2 years, and she just bought a house, but she's going to share my information on Facebook, send out my app, and we have an appointment or lunch on Monday to
great. Yeah, so she didn't like bite your head off. Did you apologize first?
Yes.
How'd it go when you said it?
She said saying that, you know, it's her fault too, and that we do both need to make more of an effort, but.
Right, right. But see, I love the part about just being accountable for it, saying, hey, you know, I'm sorry I haven't called you. And they're like, no, I'm just as guilty, you know. So it's an easy, you take the fear rate out of it because you're just so quick to be up front, and they're gonna agree that they're doing just as bad. So good.
Yeah, I reached out to a kid that I actually haven't talked to for probably about 8 years. And him and his wife have just started a cleaning business that actually goes into new homes or homes that have been sold and cleans them. So I was like, wow.
Maybe you guys can help each other.
So we're getting together Friday to kind of figure out that.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty odd.
I mean, it's funny because like I had recently, I had 4 under contract, and 3 of them were new builds, and only 1 was a resale, which is just kind of a state of the market, you know, where we don't have enough of the listings. But you know, with the new construction, they always need that cleanup, you know, before someone takes possession.
Yep.
So who's that builder working with? You know, could you maybe connect him? Can he help you? So.
Yep.
Yeah. There's always a connection somehow. How'd you do?
I called a friend I hadn't talked to in probably a year, maybe a little bit more. And so we're gonna meet up on Thursday. He's gonna actually be in Maine randomly. He's from Boston. But he has family up here, and he has like a very part-time job up here. So he's gonna be up here on Thursday, and we're gonna meet up. And his mom is in real estate too, so
Yeah.
we're gonna try to connect that.
That would be, see, once again, that would just be awesome, where you guys could refer to each other
Yep.
out of
She
area.
works like in northern Maine.
Yeah.
And so if we can just send clients back and forth,
Yeah.
it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. And, you know, what's even cool about that is he's gonna be here in a few days. Had you
Yep.
not made the call, you never would have known that.
Exactly.
Yeah. What I love about making phone calls is it can be a great learning experience. It can be a great source of information. So when you feel like you're lacking a source of information to put into your data bank, make some phone calls. You know, maybe you got a new realtor you could add to your data bank who's out of area, not your local competition. You know, so good job. Was anyone afraid to do it? Good, you shouldn't be. All right. Okay. So, one of the things about getting ahead in the game is a successful contract to close process. So making sure you close on time as expected. I've been doing this a long time, and I could probably count on one hand the number of transactions that have not closed on time for me. I have very high expectations. I take control of things. I got a team around me that, you know, my vendors that I work with, you know, it's very clear how things are gonna go. And I will tell you, last year alone, I think there were like 6 multiple offers I was involved in that I won because the co-broker knew me. Of course, one of the great things about when you're president of the board is a lot of people know you more than you necessarily know them, because you're the one running the meeting, and, you know, there's a lot of new faces. But that confidence that they have, knowing that you'll get to the closing table, versus working with a co-broker who they don't even know the name of the co-broker, first time they heard the name. So, you know, a lot of times if you've had a transaction with them before, they know you, you know, and you know, do things right, they know in a multiple offer, even though you might be $2,000 off on price than the other person, the end of the day is who's gonna get to that closing table 6 weeks from now on time without a bunch of problems. And when you've got a co-broker speaking for their other co-broker on the other side, you know, that works wonders for your client. So just setting the tone on how you do business will also lead to unexpected successes in the future, such as being in multiple bid and getting it just because you're you, because they know how you operate. Okay? You know, you want to make sure it's smooth and painless for all the parties involved. It's not about just your client. Yes, we have a fiduciary duty to our client, but we also have ministerial duties, and the goal really is a closing. So it can't be win-screw. You know, all the negotiations have to be a win-win. So if we give on this, what are they giving? You know, if we're giving on price, are they giving on inspections? Are they giving on the close date? Are they giving us more time for inspections? Whatever. But it, you know, there has to be some. It can't be like three things one way and nothing the other. So just keep that in mind as you're negotiating. That as long as there's a win somewhere on both sides, it will probably work out. It's when there is no win that things just don't stay together. Okay? And then, you know, the best way to get future business, I can't tell you how many repeat clients I have, but, you know, it's delivering that 10 plus customer experience, 10 plus, you know, making sure you're just organized and you're not dropping the ball on anything. And I can tell you, I have lots of conversations with lots of realtors. Even driving over here this morning, I was talking to a realtor friend of mine, and it's like, geez, this person, you know, 3 days ago contacted me, and you know, they want information on this property, and I haven't even gotten back to them. You know, it's like, well, what's your follow-up system? What kind of realtor are you being? So, you know, luckily that's not me in my conversation, but I hear it all the time. I see it all the time. And usually when there's a problem and all of a sudden a DB's involved, someone usually dropped the ball. Somewhere. Almost always. I didn't know my deadline was 5 o'clock. I thought I could give them here's what we want. Now, this is what you need to know about deadlines. So when you have an investigation contingency and you say 7 business days or 10 business days or 14 business days, it's 14 or 10 or 7 at 5 p.m. that day. And it says in the paragraph, you better read the paragraphs, you better understand the paragraphs, and you better explain them to your clients. Full resolution. So you can't submit something at 10 a.m. to Luke, who's on a plane, and he's headed out to the West Coast, and we won't be able to get a hold of him until 6 o'clock tonight. Okay? So you better think about that crap, because you can't submit something at 10 this morning saying, we want them to pay for the radon system and we want a $5,000 price adjustment for all this miscellaneous issues. And then your deadline's 5 o'clock that day. It's not even fair to the other side. Shame on you for being that late, and I kind of hope you get screwed on the deal. You know, and if it comes out of your pocket, you'll learn quickly.
So what do you normally, what is your timeline?
My timeline is I get the inspections done as fast as possible. You know, 2-3 days after going under contract. And I work with inspectors that can do it. Okay, and I know they're busy. But, and then I have plenty of time for air results to come back, water results to come back, and time to investigate something else in case we got to get a contractor in there, an engineer in there. You know, I want my inspections done ASAP. Good example, Friday at 5 o'clock, went under contract on a property while I'm in the waiting room. There was $1.2 million property, and we're doing inspections today, Tuesday. It was 5 o'clock Friday, but we're gonna have inspections done today. And I got plenty of time, got 10 business days, and yesterday was day 1. So,
But if you don't have the luxury of obviously having somebody that, you know, I mean, if inspections do go on, you know.
well,
What
the
is
key
your-
is,
what
the
is
key
your
is you gotta, you know, here's the thing. You guys, the way you keep all these deals together is you're the one in control, okay? And I know we all think this is about our client, and it is about our client. But their life and their money is on the line with you being organized. They already signed a contract with you, right? You have fiduciary duties to perform. So you want to get things done in a very timely manner so you have more time to investigate issues that come up at the last minute. And they do. No house is perfect. A brand new house has issues. So, you know, it could be brand new construction, but there's always going to be something. Now, the good thing with brand new construction is typically you got a 1-year warranty with most brand new construction with the builder. So, you know, you can do a punch list of things, not a big deal, they're going to fix it. a little bit different than dealing with, getting back water results, and you get arsenic or radon in the water. And those are $5,000 and $10,000 fixes sometimes, depending on the solution, whole house or point of use. Now remember, if your people have children, do you want point of use or whole house, and do you know the difference? And you may not. You're new, right? How many people here have done 10 transactions? You've done 5, which is awesome. Still love it. Has anyone else even had a closing yet? No. Okay. So you probably don't know all the things I'm talking about, but let me just reassure you, all these things are going to come up in your career. Okay? So a point of use is where they to take arsenic out of the water, they put it at the drinking water in the kitchen sink typically. Okay? Now if someone's got children, do you want that? Probably not. Because you know what? They brush their teeth where? Bathroom. Do they get a drink of water out of the bathroom? Right? Kids, it's going to be different with kids. So you want a whole house system so that all the water supply is being affected. Now, if it's just adults, most people will be happy with a point of use. They know, they're not going to worry. Some people freak out about everything, radon in the air. You don't want radon, open up your windows. But we can't make light of it because we have liability issues. But I think, you talk to a lot of people, you talk to some doctors, they think it's a bunch of poo-poo, but we can't work like that, So, just know you're in control of things. Now, on your way to payday, okay, you've got this page, we're on page 12, okay?
Could I ask one quick question about
Nope. Go ahead.
the inspection? So the air quality and all that, is that all part of the inspection, or are those different people?
They're different things.
Different things, and should you have them all done at every place?
Well, good question. I think this is a conversation you have with your client, because they're paying for all the inspections. So let's just say your general building is $350, $400, another $135 for testing air. It might be another couple $100 to do water, and there's different levels of water. You can do the basic, or you can do it with uranium and radon and all this and that. So I think if you're dealing with rural properties, I myself always recommend radon air, even if the house has been tested. And they say, and this is what I hate, if you look at disclosures, and you'll see results. The word satisfactory is not a PCI level. PCI has a number. So anyone who tells you satisfactory, you need to get that corrected, because it's a PCI level. And satisfactory to who? They were fine with it, it was 5.5. EPA says 4.0 is an action level. So it was 3.9, EPA says it's safe. 4.0, it's actually action level. Maine wants it to be 2.0. So we have a big discrepancy between what Maine says and what the EPA says. And that can be one of those issues that you have a conversation with 2 realtors where we don't agree eye to eye on that. But that's something that you have to just kind of work through negotiations. And just remember, EPA says one thing, state of Maine says another. And if they go to, if you know the residential property transaction booklet that we give people, and if you look at the next to the last page, because the last page now is that wire transfer warning, but the next to the last page is a whole bunch of state websites, names of the websites, phone numbers, and all that. And if someone doesn't know something about septic, doesn't know something about radon, they don't know something about mold, they want to complain about realtors, all that's right there. So if they were to actually go and take that and use that and go and check out radon, you're going to see that the state of Maine is going to be recommending 2.0. So you can't just say to your client 4.0. Let them know that Maine suggests 2.0. The EPA, which is a nationwide guideline, recommends 4.0. So there's a little bit of a discrepancy. How do you feel? And then you gotta work from there. Did I answer your question, okay?
Yes, what is that book you were saying? That has that?
The residential property transaction booklet, which is a required booklet for you to give. Okay? Alright, where do you get his marker? I wanted to draw something.
It's on.
Okay.
It's like a 24
Is there,
page booklet.
there's gotta be a
Okay.
marker here, right?
Thank you.
You had an orange marker.
Real estate transaction.
I hope this is erasable. The highlighter, huh? I don't know, I wanted to draw something, I'll draw it later. We'll talk about this right here. So, just think about your data bank, okay? Up top, you got your leads. They could be good, they could be bad, you just got some sort of lead, right? The next goal is to take those leads that you have and narrow them down into appointments. And we all know that I could have 100 leads, but I might only get 10 appointments, right? So it starts the funnel. Once I get an appointment, my goal then is to get an agreement with them. If they're serious, I don't just need agreements, by the way. Because when you sign your name to the piece of paper, it's more important about you signing that piece of paper, because now you got a fiduciary duty to them. And they can sue you. You can't turn around and sue someone for not buying, right? And it'd be much harder to sue them for not selling. But you might have a case there, at least sue them for the commission. Because if they have an offer that, you know, is full price, whatever. And I don't want to get into all that. But you can't sue someone for not buying. So we'll just talk about a buyer agreement, okay? So when you sign your name to that piece of paper, remember, they own you. So a great example is you got that fiduciary duty. So it's Friday at 3 o'clock, and of course Luke just got a great new listing, and he just hit submit. And it went in the system. My client got notified, oh wow, this brand new listing popped up. And I'm grabbing my suitcase, and I'm at the airport, checking in, flying away over the weekend to go to Chicago, and I'll be back Monday. And my client calls me about the new listing and says, hey, this just popped up, I want to see it tomorrow. I'm like, wow, I'm at the Portland Jetport, I'm boarding a plane in 20 minutes. I'll be back Sunday night, let's see it Monday. And it goes under contract before Monday. Who can be sued?
You?
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. I failed in my obligations and duties, a fiduciary duty, to get them in.
You'd be sued for that?
Absolutely, and you better
I mean,
realize
not that I
that.
wouldn't try to get somebody to go do it, I'm just
No, not
surprised
that you
you'd
would,
be sued.
you do try, for sure.
Yeah, right, that's, I mean,
Right.
I would try.
But yes, you could be sued.
Hmm.
Sure as hell can.
Do you know of anybody that has happened to, under that circumstance?
No, I can't
You
say I
can see,
do.
I mean, like, that's like a real, like, pretty easy
Well,
scenario that could happen.
Well, this is why you have to understand fiduciary.
And if you were flying out
Yeah.
to a, you know, a parent that was ill or dying,
It's okay, they can be ill and dying.
doesn't matter, right now.
Doesn't matter. You have an obligation, so you should be able to reach over and say to behind you and go, Paul, I got a parent dying, sick and ill, and I gotta leave. Can you do me a favor?
Mm-hmm.
And Paul would probably say, absolutely, you know, no problem. But if you don't do that, yes, the answer is yes.
Mhm.
See you in real estate jail. Okay? Now, most people are gonna be understanding, so would they sue you? No, but there's always an asshole everywhere. Okay?
I guess you could sue for anything.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
And you would have derelict of duty if you made no effort to
Right.
get them in.
Mhm.
So yes, the answer is you could lose. Okay? So I want you to understand, you know, once you get the agreement, how important it is for you to understand your neck is on the line by you signing. So I have a great script when I meet with people. So I always meet with people, you know, and sit down and go over the whole process of real estate. Does anyone know where he grabbed the marker from?
I think he's got it over in his desk though, I thought.
It's orange, right?
I think it's right up behind his computer there.
Used orange, right? You'd think they had more around here. Well, this one, I just don't wanna write with one if I don't know if it's
Yes.
erasable. Let's see if this works.
Here you go.
Okay, thank you. I'll do those two. Great, thanks. Just throw in this. Alright, so here's what I want you to remember about real estate. First off, we'll start right here. What does that look like rudimentary?
Stairs.
Thank you.
Not according to,
Bingo. So, this is, we'll just say the lead stage, okay? At the end of the day, our goal in real estate is to close. Now, I'm going to draw another quick picture. It's the house. Front door. Some windows up here. Of course, you got down here. So, typically a colonial style home, okay? Rudimentary drawing, by the way. But your living space is all down here. And at the end of the day, when we're really tired, what's our goal? Go to bed, right? Get up the stairs. Exactly. Because all the bedrooms are on the second floor. So what I want you to do, if you're meeting with someone, you can actually use this, okay? You can borrow this, okay? And keep it and make it better than what I do. But when you first meet with people, you gotta meet and explain this process to them, right? Because what do most people want to do? They call you, they talk about a property that they saw online, they know nothing about, but they think they want to buy it or see it.
Yep.
So what do we know about them? Have we met with them? Have we got them pre-approved? Do we even know if they can afford that friggin' house? Right? So are we doing our fiduciary duty? Are we even doing our ministerial duty to the co-broker? Because if I'm calling saying, hey, I'd like to schedule a showing, wouldn't it be cool if I called them and said, oh, I'd like to schedule a showing. The people I'm showing, I know nothing about them, but we want to see your house. I don't know if they can afford it. I don't know if they're ready, but we want to see it. Oh, by the way, can your sellers, come home at lunch and get the dog, clean the house, make the beds, do all this. We have some duties as co-broker with someone to ministerial duties. Like if they said to me, a co-broker, look, I'm going to be out of town, but my client wants to write an offer on the other terms, can you help do that? Yes, I can. I can't give them advice, but I can say, what do you want to put in the price, and I can do that, right? And then I can send it to him to make sure he reviews it and he's happy with it, whatever. So we have ministerial duties, but my fiduciary duties to my client, okay? So in this process, you got to meet with someone, right? First thing's the appointment. Then we're going to talk about the whole process, and we're going to review properties. And hopefully they're going to decide that I'm the realtor that they want to work with. So then we get an agreement. Then we go out and start looking at properties. We do not look at properties before agreements. Why?
well, don't you wait, find out if they're approved first before you even have that?
Well, I do, but a realtor won't. And most people are realtors. So
There's no commitment if you don't have an agreement.
yeah, they want to take your time. So let me ask you this: if it's Saturday at 10 o'clock, and you could go to your son's soccer game and spend time with your family, or you could go out with someone who can't buy the house they want to go look at, what would you prefer to do? So why aren't we getting people qualified first? Why are we realtors running out the door? We get all excited. Ooh, yay.
Well, sometimes they.
I got a lead. And that's what it is. It's a lead. Doesn't mean it's a good lead. The whole idea of this process is to funnel this down. You know, make an appointment. That's the whole idea of an appointment. So the appointment happens here, right? They meet with you, you discuss the whole process, so they have an understanding of what goes on. So it's gonna be me, we're gonna preview properties together, cause you know what? I wanna save your shoes. I don't wanna wear them out and put holes in them. So let's face it, if we look online and we talk about, and we gotta be careful when we talk about neighborhoods, cause we can't steer people, okay? But we can say, well, you know, you do know the railroad track's right here. I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying there's a railroad track right here, okay? So, or do you see the double yellow line in the road from the photo of the house? And you've got children, i.e. that's not a 15-mile speed limit with a double yellow. How do you feel about that? I'm not saying it's bad, but you got kids. Is that gonna be important? Might be a busy street. So you can save a lot of time by sitting down with them, and when I say talk about neighbors, just point little things out, not going, oh, crime. If anyone asks you about crime, tell them to call the police department and get the details, because you don't really know, right? You're assuming, no, that's a bad neighborhood. You can't say it's a bad neighborhood because, you know, you're steering people out of the neighborhood, which might be more economical, and now you're driving them to some other one. Or you're talking about schools. You can't talk about schools, okay? You're steering. It's illegal. All right?
You can't talk about school, you
No.
can't say it, there's, like, if you know it's a good school,
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay.
Right.
But that's what the
Wow, that-
client wants to talk
Now,
about.
I was just
here's
gonna
what you can say, look, as a whole, Maine has a pretty good school systems. But if you want to, if you're concerned about how schools are rated, you need to go to maine.gov and you can look it all up. In the past years, this school system was rated #1. The following year was a different town. The following year was another town. You know, it's not like one year, every town, the same town wins year after year. Every year, the ratings change. But Maine as a whole has pretty good school systems. Okay?
So if you have somebody relocating and they're asking you, you have to say, you can look it up here, you can't provide them anything.
Or you can provide them a link where they can get that, you know, the ratings. But do not comment on one being better than another.
Right, no, but if like they said, we're looking at Falmouth, Yarmouth,
Yeah.
and Cape Elizabeth.
They all have great school systems.
Yeah, and so you could send them a link or you could print them the thing and give it to them.
Yeah.
Couldn't you just say as simple as you just said?
You
Yeah.
can, because you're not favoring one over the other. You're not saying, they got great school systems, oh, by the way, Biddeford sucks.
Right.
Right. Could you put them in touch with, like, with some people, like, at the school? Like a
Do you know
principal
people at the
or-
school?
Well, maybe, I'm just saying, like, you know, if it's.
I would not, unless you knew someone. Don't go out of your way like that. Just provide them with the link to do their own research. Just like if you read the residential property transaction booklet, and I suggest you do, because there's a lot of Q&As, and you better know what you're giving your clients, okay?
'Cause
So, listen to me for a second.
Okay, sorry.
It's a lot of Q&As,
Mm.
questions and answers, okay? They have a responsibility to do their own due diligence. What they normally do is, you believe that they're throwing it all on you. But you need to remind them that they have to do their own due diligence. So schools is a great reminder. They need to do their own due diligence, that you cannot steer them. I tell them, I can't steer you. And if I were to tell you one school system over another, I'm steering you to another town, another neighborhood, and the prices could be different, and it's illegal, and I'm not allowed to do that. And they get it. They don't want me to do something illegal. So it's not like I'm being stupid, I'm just being honest. And I say, but you can go to maine.gov and you can get that. Or I can give them the link. So the process is, you gotta meet, you gotta go through things, you know, then we're gonna, after we look at homes online, we're gonna schedule the ones that are the best. Now think about this, how many people wanna give you a list of 10, 12 homes they wanna see? Right? BS bullshit, okay? No. Let's go look at the top 3 or 4. So go through the list, and I don't care when you're doing a search for someone, you send them 45 listings, you tell them to keep scrubbing the list, keep going through it until you get your top 5. Okay? There's a reason the top 5 will be on the top 5. Now, the thing about that, it saves you a lot of time, is if they say, well, I really want to see these 8, I will, which one do you really prefer out of the 8? Why? And there's always going to be a reason why. Well, it's got 3 acres and a 2-car garage. The other house doesn't have a garage. So when you get them to scrub through the listings, they'll see that one's more turnkey than the other. One's got, more upgrades than the other. One's missing something. Something's got something. So, it's like, all right, so if you're choosing this as your favorite, and the second favorite, and the third favorite, why are you going to like number 10? You won't, because if you don't like the top 3, you're not going to like number 10 and 8 and 9. See how that works to your advantage? Saves you a lot of time and money? So the whole idea is to sit down with them and do this together so that at the end of that meeting, you can walk out of there knowing which 3, 4, 5 properties max you're going to put on the tour. And they're on the tour for a reason. Because they're the best of the best that was out there that matched their criteria. And if you don't like one of those 5, you're not going to like the others. You might as well tell them to do drive-bys on the others because they'll see why they didn't like them. Yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. So, now we're choosing the homes. Then we're going to eventually write a contract. Then we're going to do inspections. Then we might renegotiate. Then we're going to continue forward because we're keeping the deal together. So now we're going to wait for the appraisal if money's involved, like a loan. Okay? You can still do an appraisal if it's cash. And then underwriting's going to approve the appraisal. Okay? So just understand this process, is all these things I'm mentioning. So they need to understand. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer or seller, the reason, you don't need to worry about all this. That's what I do. So we're going to just worry about one step at a time, and I'm going to tell you what the next step is. Okay? So after we write an offer, and it goes under contract, I'm going to tell you what's next. Now it's going to be inspections, but let's get under contract before we worry about inspections. We won't worry about the appraisal until after that. Okay? So you're there to guide them each step of the way. And finally, if you've done your job, and you've done it thoroughly, you're going to get to this point right here. And they go to bed. They go to sleep, which was the goal. Colonial home. Okay? And that's really what this is indicating too. Although it's not the same way, it's taking your leads, getting those appointments you need to get so you can sit down and explain this. Then you got to decide, are these folks serious enough? Matter of fact, when I started out, and I was like you guys, if I leave you with 2 words to remember today, there's only 2 words I want you to remember. Confidence and conviction. You got the confidence and conviction that you know what you're doing even though you're brand new. You don't need to tell anyone you're brand new. Okay? Now,
that seems like that seems like one of the first questions. How long have you been doing it?
Well, if it is, you know what's weird?
In my mind.
I hardly ever get asked how long I've been doing it.
Well, you're 106.
Right. I've been doing it 56 years. I hardly ever get asked how long I've been doing it.
At the beginning, never?
Not often.
So, now you say you've got a lot of repeats, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
People just know who you are and what you do.
Mm-hmm. But honestly, I never got that question. I won't call it an objection.
Okay.
Question. I didn't get that question much.
Has anybody here got that talking to new people? No?
I think it's something we worry about, but it's like, oh, I've been doing it a while. Now, what's your definition of a while, right? Are they gonna follow up with that? Well, what's a while? Maybe, and then you tell them the truth.
I had a real estate, that's what happened in an open house. from another agent that I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, no mail. Oh, really? How mail? Like, when did you start? When did you get your license?
Yeah. Well, and especially when you say, I'm new,
Yeah.
you know? So if you take that away from your vocabulary, the question might not have even come up. Right? You volunteered it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
You might think about like what your background is and how it ties into what it is you're doing now.
In what way?
I don't know if it's like, I don't know, like if I thought about like what I was doing prior, I was like, in sales, advertising sales for Main Home and Design.
Mhm.
So I talked to a lot of builders, architects, interior designers, real estate agents, so
The transition to you is smooth.
new, yes, there's a lot new, but it's,
Like a
but
great example,
there's a
you could
lot.
say, I've been involved in the industry.
Right,
for a
the
while.
industry, yeah.
Yep.
You don't have to say,
Say
I've had my
like-
real estate license for
Yeah,
2
no,
weeks.
Yeah, I have no idea, you know, I'm not gonna say that.
I think everything
Well,
we
it's not
do
because
about
they
contract to
real estate
close,
too.
everything we do is
I'm
about how we
with
word
my
things
family.
and
I've had family
do
members in real
things.
estate for quite a while.
So,
Oh, okay.
just know that you gotta be truthful the whole time.
Right.
But if you say a while, your definition of a while is 6 weeks. There's nothing wrong with that,
Right.
right?
Correct.
How long you been doing it? Oh, a while. Now, if they ask you what's a while, 6 weeks. Say it with confidence. Don't go like, 6 weeks. There's a totally different way you deliver it. Okay? So confidence and convictions, if there's only 2 words I leave you with today, I want you to remember that you do not need to upfront disclose that you're brand new. Okay? Because that's going to create a lot of fear potentially in the person you're working with. Because they say, well, what do you know about real estate? You know, you don't know. And remember,
But that was what we were kind of told to do with all of our contacts, all of our influences, to reach out and to say, hey, I'm newly into
Sure.
real estate.
that's fine.
Okay.
No problem. Okay? It's not a problem doing that. Letting them know, hey, I just got into real estate.
Okay.
But when you come across another lead or whatever comes your way, they're calling in
Kinda
on a
tuck that
property.
behind.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know? So have the confidence and conviction that you know what you're doing. You know, you went to real estate school, which, you know, wow, they tell you rules and regulations, they tell you nothing about the business. Biggest mistake I think is made there is they should tell you before they start the class, by the way, this business is all about lead generation, and if you don't like lead generation, I'll give you your money back, you don't need the books, bye-bye. Thank you for coming, but I'm saving you a lot of time. Because if they had told most of us about lead generation, we probably wouldn't even get in the business because we fear it. None of us want to do it, right? But as soon as you embrace that, and you know, if you remember like Tom, well, you probably don't remember, but Tom Hopkins has a book, and there's lots of sales books, but it's about 20 belly-to-bellies a day. And so if you have 20 belly-to-belly, you know, face-to-face meetings a day, you only need 1 yes and 19 no's. So this business is full of no's. And if you can't take the 19 no's to get to the 1 yes, then don't do this. Save yourself and your family a lot of aggravation. But if you embrace the 19 no's and the challenge is, I got another no. Let me get the next one. You know, door knocking's the same way. I mean, open houses, the best way to have a good open house is knock on that neighborhood on Tuesday prior to the open house. Let everyone know you're doing an open house. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to know, here's a flyer, I'm doing this. You might have a family member, a friend who might like the neighborhood. I assume you like it, you're living here. You know, but love to have you come down and preview the home, tell me what you think. Whatever, they're not gonna shoot you, okay? And move on. You're not trying to convince them to sell their house right now. Now, you might find, oh my God, great, I'm glad you knocked on my door. I'm thinking of selling too. That may be the side benefit. Your goal is just to let them reach out to people they know to know that you're doing an open house in this neighborhood. And they may come visit you, or they may tell someone to come visit you. That's it. So, no fear. Just like calling someone you haven't talked to in 2 years. We took the fear right out of it. Same thing, okay? So have the confidence and conviction that you guys know what you're doing in this business. I don't care how long you've been in it. 6 months, I mean, I don't know how long you've been in it.
2, 1, something like that.
One.
1 month?
Month.
Yeah. Seems like
A
forever.
month.
Third week.
3 weeks.
6 weeks.
Alright, 16 years. Now, what's the difference? I got more experience, right? But that doesn't mean I have more confidence. And you know, have the conviction that you know. If you don't know something, you don't know about radon air, you don't know about leach fields, you don't know about certain financing stuff, you don't know how to get through an appraisal that comes up short, and renegotiation. Do you think there's someone at Keller Williams that does?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you could ask for some help?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We'll help. Call me. I've seen a lot. I'm willing to help. I want my co-brokers to be as good as me. I don't want them to be crappy. I'd rather have a great co-broker out in the field than one that's not. And the difference between Keller Williams agents is we got the education, we got the tools, we have no excuse to be a crappy agent. We have a huge advantage. And you guys being here is indicative that that's what you want. You wouldn't sit through these 3-hour classes and listen to Paul McKee, you know, if you didn't want to make the best of this, right? So just have the confidence and conviction that you know what you're doing, because if you don't know, you know you can make a phone call quickly. We all have cell phones, so it's not like you have to worry, oh, it's Saturday, it's 7 o'clock at night, I'll never get an answer till Monday. That's in your head. That's not truthful.
And that's one less item you have to do manually.
Right.
Leave a message.
You know, so when you don't know something, just say to your client, you know, I really don't have the answer for that, but if I get back to you tomorrow morning, is that okay? And what are they going to say?
Absolutely.
Exactly. And if they say no, can you get back tonight? Say, I'll do my best. Now you've changed that expectation. You're going to try, may not, but they know you're going to hear from you tomorrow. Setting expectations gets you to closings, always. And being in control is the key. You are their guiding light. You're the lighthouse at the end of the rock. Okay? So once you got an agreement with them, the next goal is going to be go out and get that contract, right? Show property, and finally we're going to go into contract. And then the goal of the contract is to get to the closing and all those other steps that come in between. But we can't just meet with someone and then say, yep, next is the appraisal. Doesn't happen. And I always explain, going to bed at night in a colonial home, you got to take one step at a time. And that's what real estate is. One step. You just can't start at the bottom. And I know we can, and I know you probably got long legs, but you know, and we can do 2 or 3 sometimes at once, but not in real estate. We can't skip a step. It's one step at a time. And when you can sit with someone and just explain something so basic, doesn't it sound like you know what you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So did you need a script that you had to memorize?
No.
You just need a diagram, something that, I always say it's like an analogy you can give to someone. Okay? So, simple. Alright? Just like, as much as we talk about scripts in all these classes, we know there's a script here, and we know we can go off course, but at the end, what was the one goal? The appointment. So all I gotta remember is, my goal of this whole thing is to get the appointment. So my script may falter, I may not have it down pat, but I can guarantee you, if I do 100 phone calls, and by the way, if you go to Bold, there'll be a day of Bold where you have to do 100 phone calls.
Yeah, every once a week, right?
Well, you could, but there's gonna be the challenge of doing 100 phone calls. Yes, in a day. Okay? So,
I'll need your card.
what's that?
I'll need your business card,
Yeah.
so I get one more.
Yeah. So,
They'll be there calling you.
but my point about all that is, if I said something 5 times, and then I said it 25 times, Next thing you know, I've said it 75 times. Do you think I now have it down pat?
Mhm.
So, you know, we have a thing about scripts, you know, you can't customize until you can internalize and memorize.
Mhm.
Once you've internalized it and memorized it, you might have the flexibility to customize it. But until you internalize it and memorize it, you do not get that opportunity to customize it. These scripts are proven in bold, ignite, all of it. So you don't go changing it until you have it memorized. Okay? Alright. So we're gonna get to the closing someday. So the process, okay? You know, you're either working with a buyer or a seller, right? Pretty simple. You're working with other agents. There might be attorneys involved. I've got one right now. I'm working with an attorney. A couple weeks ago, I'm going to give you an example. I love examples. I had a client from Pennsylvania, and I was out with him, and his wife was supposed to come with him, and they're under the gun because their house is closing April 29th, and they didn't have a property here yet. And he drove an hour and a half with his wife, and she was sick as a dog. So he turned around and had to take her home. I had to cancel all my showings for that Thursday and reschedule them for Saturday. And I had them also booked for Friday, so I took the Thursdays and just moved them into Saturday. So he came back, and we saw everything on Friday with just him. And then Saturday, I added one listing that I knew because I had been out with them before. I knew it's what they're looking for, but they wanted to determine all the properties that they were looking at. And they were focused on price and rundown homes and this and that. And their goal was to be within 40 miles or 1 hour of the center of Gorham. So it's quite a range. You know, drove me crazy. Normally I reeled in a lot more. But this was kind of a referral from a referral. So, but after being out with them a couple times, I realized, you know, everything that was getting sent to them, they were just really focused on that credit type home. And then it might not even get the loan because of the condition of the home and blah, blah, blah. So I said, I had shown this other couple I was out with the 2 days prior, Tuesday, Wednesday, from Caroliners, a property, and they wrote an offer on it, and you gotta love this. It was up in Harpswell, had water view, coastal. You wouldn't be able to get a CO on the home. The guy had lights that had light bulbs, so you just put the socket in from the wires and screw a light bulb in. Some of the flooring was gone and just subflooring, but it was like on the market for $390, and my client wrote an offer that was obviously not $390, but we'll say it was in the mid threes, and then he counted it $389. So I said to the co-broker, who was a KW agent, I said, why didn't you just flatly reject it? You didn't need to counter. That's just ludicrous. He goes, well, we had that discussion, but this is his counter. And I'm like, all right, so my clients just passed. So the Carolina people passed on it. Meantime, on that Saturday, I scheduled a showing of a house for my Pennsylvania person. And I knew it was perfect for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I showed it to him. He goes, oh my God, this is perfect. And he wanted to know what it was. And because I told him, I have one lined up for you, but I'm not telling you what it is. Because I didn't want him to look it up. Because it's about $5,000 over his price range. But yet they were looking at homes that they could buy, and then they'd be willing to spend $40,000 on fixing it up. So I'm like, $5,000 over his price range is nothing when they're willing to fix up a home. So it hit on every level. But then he drove home to Pennsylvania, and I thought for sure it was the house. And he goes, it's too big, we're going to pass. And I was like you.
Yeah.
I was kind of shocked. I'm like, all right. So the next day, I'm talking to my people from Carolina who are now back in Carolinas, and I said, I know you were looking at Waterview, but what about a lake Waterview? And they're like, yeah, no, that would be fine. See, I saw a great house yesterday, and he goes, well, send it to me. So I emailed the house to him. I went home for the afternoon. I was at the gas station, and my phone rings. And he calls me and goes, we want to write an offer on that house today. I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, we want to write an offer now. I'm like, all right. So we wrote an offer on it, we were under contract that night, they have not seen it. I have, they haven't. The next day, I get a text from my Pennsylvania people saying, hey, you know, we're coming back, you know, like Tuesday, and, you know, that house is back on the list. So I didn't say anything, I'm like, all right. And, you know, I knew a few days had gone by, so I said, all right, I'm double checking on the correct list now of the homes that you want, and I'll schedule those. And so they gave me a list of like 7 or 8 homes, and then I just said, well, you know, 2 of them are under contract, and one was the one, of course, I put under contract with my other client. So I didn't say it was my other client, which we can, but there was no need. I just said it's under contract. They're like, okay. So if there was another house he had already seen that I knew he liked, and she'd probably fall in love with because it's Mountain Vistas. And sure enough, they fell in love with that. 5 acres, beautiful mountain views. So we got them under contract on this. I got the other people under contract on this, and they were just up here last week and saw the house for the first time for the inspections. And we'll be closing May 1st. So, you know, in this business, wild things happen. But my client told me he was passing, so I didn't tell my other client about it until he said he was passing. And it was free game. But then I was in a pickle because he decided maybe it is back in the game. And then I'm like, well, what do I do? I don't really have to tell him, but, you know, he could have written a backup offer. So things like that can happen in the business. So, you know, the guy I'm working with now from Carolina is an attorney, which is what I was just going to get back to. And so the people are going to leave behind like a ping pong table, a pool table, and a foosball table just because they really don't want to move it. And they're like, fine, you know, we don't want to pay for it, but yeah, we'll take it. So the co-broker did an addendum, and it's like, well, we don't need to really sign anything for that because it has no value. And they wrote no value, but he's an attorney. So he's like, well, no, I'm not going to sign it. And I'm not going to argue with an attorney, which is my point, you know, because I'm not an attorney. So, you know, he did real estate down in Florida for years, 20 plus years. So he's a real estate attorney down there. I'm not going to argue. Just call the co-broker and say, hey, by the way, I'll shoot you an email saying we're fine if they leave the stuff. I understand why you wanted that.
Yeah.
You said it with no value, and then it's clear that that's being left behind. I get it. But my guy's an attorney, and he wants to argue about that and the value, and it could be perceived differently, and I'm not going to argue with him. So here's confirmation that we agree it's going to be left. So she was fine with that, and so forth. So, you know,
did you just do that with an email, or did you fill out an addendum?
A written
like that?
email, because there's a written communication from the agent saying this is okay, they can leave that. Okay? So we're just acknowledging. But, you know, there's no reason to have to sign an addendum for something of no value. So, one of those things, but you're going to work with attorneys, whether they're representing a client or they're an attorney themselves buying a home. And I choose not to argue with an attorney who's buying a home, because I'm not one. And the more we write in contracts, just remember, we fill in blanks. We start writing sentences, what are we practicing?
Law.
Right, do you have a law license?
No.
So you don't practice law. If they want something written long, lengthy sentences, tell them to get their attorney to email it to you. You can cut and paste. That's what you can do. Okay? Lenders, you know, we talk about you're going to work with loan officers, mortgage processors, underwriters. You're going to deal with members on your team or assistants of other teams that say, hey, we missed this initial, can you get this? Whatever. Okay? You're going to talk with the closing escrow company, title companies, and the people there. You could have third party, loss mitigation, relocation companies. There's a lot of players that can get involved in a transaction, as you can see. So our job is just to, you know, have a great team. The better your team, the better you'll be. Okay? Family, friends, oh my God, family, friends, they could be lending money to a buyer for down payment. But here's the other thing about family and friends. Okay? And I am not shy. You can imagine. Do you think I'm shy about taking control? And I'm not shy with my clients. I am in control. I do not let them tell me how to run the business, okay? Number one, who's got the license? Is that good? Thank you. I have the license. Ask them if they have their real estate license. When a family member wants to give a million things of advice, right? It's like, I understand what you're saying, but you know, you gotta remind your client that their parents don't have a real estate license in the state of Maine. I have been to hundreds of closings. How many have they been to? 5, 6, as a mom and dad? How many homes have they bought? Right? So just remember, you've got a lot more experience than they have, a lot more knowledge than they have, and they didn't hire their parents to represent them. I need a hug.
How are you?
Good, how are you? Good to see you.
Nice to be seen.
Yeah, that's what I said. Do you know everyone, Dottie?
I know a few people. Kinda know you.
Yeah, this is my daughter-in-law,
Okay, great.
so I know her.
Yeah.
Mary Tracy.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you? Hi. Can I sit in for a minute?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So just know that, you know, you're the one with that license, you're the one with the experience, you're the one that knows where to turn to for all the resources, and you've got that confidence and conviction, and don't ever lose it. I don't care if it's 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 days in the business, because there's people like myself, people like Dottie, that, you know, you may be on a team, and you know, you've got resources that you can go to get these answers, okay? So that's what they're counting on for you. And this family friend thing, just know family members can be one of the easiest things to be a deal breaker in this process of getting to the closing at the end, top of the staircase. So you have to be able to navigate that, all right? Gently and sometimes firmly, okay? We don't want them to be the deal breakers. So on the next page, 14, you're gonna see, you know, the whole thing about you have an offer, right? And it's just an offer, and then it may come back just totally accepted. It may come back with some changes, or it could actually just be flatly rejected. In either case, it is what it is. If it's flatly rejected, it doesn't mean you can't write a new offer and have your clients step up more, okay? Obviously, you know, sometimes people like to do a volley, and in this market, seller's market, where it's still a seller's market, you don't have that luxury like you do in a buyer's market. Now, do you guys know the difference between a seller's market and a buyer's market as far as inventory?
Mm-hmm.
You're saying yes, so I want the answer.
Yeah.
What's a buyer's market?
Buyer's market is
Not much
what in-
inventory.
Lot of inventory.
Well, how do we determine that?
Excess inventory.
How much? How do we know? Is there a number?
Oh, I don't know what the
More
number is.
houses on the market.
Okay, the answer is there is a
Yeah.
number, okay?
There is a number.
Yes, so typically a buyer's market is when you have 7 months or more of inventory. Now, a seller's market is typically when you have 5 months or less of inventory. The transitional market, the no man's land market, is that 5 month to 7 month inventory level. Okay? So if we go back to knowing that, now, where can you get some information on that? The economic class that's going on here at KW, right? So Holly Mitchell and Leanne teach that class. I taught it for 6 years. They're teaching it now. So basically, just if you look at inventory, and here's 5 months, here's 7 months, kind of think of this as a line. So here's what you need to know. Let's say we've been down here, it's a seller's market, right? And we got all kinds of inventory. You know, December it was 3 months. You know, January it was 4 months. Then it was 2 months supply. Then it was 4 months again. Then it's 2. But once you start getting a trend and it starts getting up this way, the key is which way is that arrow moving, right? So if we were in a seller's market and now we start to see, wow, there's 3 months, now it's 4, now it's 5, you can then probably say, hey, we got a 3 month indicator, and 3 months would be good to usually think of as an indicator. 1 month is not. But if you've got 3 months that are going a certain direction, you might say, it looks like we're transitioning from the seller's market to, which would be next, the buyers. But we're gonna have that no man's land period for a little bit. And the same thing would be, let's say back in '08, when inventory was this way, and finally the inventory started coming this way, now that arrow was going this way, right? So those are the indicators, and you can get those indicators from RISMedia, Inman News, you know, lots of places, and our classes that we have internally. And you could just, you know, get it. I used to teach how to do an absorption rate, but you can get that at main listings and reports and so forth. So take advantage of all these tools that we have on our websites that we can use. So if I said anything, spend time, okay, investing in yourself and when I started, I would spend at least an hour a night just going to like KW Connect and watching these great videos of people who are doing 200 units or more throughout the country. And I always thought, like, we had great agents here, but we don't have agents that were performing at that kind of level, because throughout the country, there's some areas where they could have 2,000 homes in a 1 mile area. And, you know, we'd be lucky if we had 2,000 in a town. So it's different, but you're learning from the best. And I could watch a half-hour video and they say one thing, and it's like, oh my God, I can say that, that's me. You know, the other 30 minutes, I got some things out of it, but that one line that they said, that's me. And, you know, I can internalize it, memorize it, and then I have it forever. Okay? So spend time investing that way. Spend time at main listings, looking at the different reports that are available to you. And once you look at those and start looking at the CMAs that you can quickly do, and you look at the numbers, this starts making more sense to you.
You could do some quick CMAs in there?
Yep. Yep. And we probably need classes on all that stuff, but what I'm saying to you is, if you're thirsting to learn and get this stuff, don't wait for the class,
right,
which could be 30 days from now. Mm-hmm. Take 30 minutes tonight and do it. Mm-hmm. Find out where your resources are. Okay?
Paul, do they know how to get into KW Connect?
I think you all do, right?
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah, and we talked about Command and all that. Yeah, and you guys all have this stuff on your phone? Kelly and everything else?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, good. So just when you're having general conversations with someone, if you know that Portland's got a 2 or 3 month supply, you know it's a seller's market. It's been a seller's market for years. And if you know the last couple months, that number went from 2 and it's up to 3, 4, you can say, well, it seems like it's shifting, but we don't have enough months yet to determine that. But it might be shifting. I'll let you know next month when the reports come out. Now, good news for all of you. You can write this right down. Because I taught the economic class for 6 years every month. When do the reports come out? By the way, National Association of Realtors.org. And, you know, that is a great resource for, once again, what do you want to put on Facebook?
Yeah, just articles.
Right, NAR. Great resource, okay? But, great resource to get economic numbers. And listen to Lawrence Yun, who is our economic advisor on a national level for the National Association of Realtors, okay? So, June 21st, typically, first report will come out, pending home sales. Pending home sales is an indicator of the prior month, which is roughly going to be 45 days behind, okay, by the time the report comes out. So, but that's the best number we always have. It's always going to be about 45 days off. But it's reporting on, like, so right now we're in April, so that number that will come out will end up being, you know, March. Yeah. Okay? So you're always a little bit behind. But the thing is, you'll say, oh, pending home sales are down this month. The prior month they were up. The month before they were up. Or they were down. Or up. You know, so you kind of get to see which way we're going. Is it an indicator? It's typically not an indicator until you get about 3 months of the same indicator. Okay? So pending is a number we like to know, because interest rates being low could mean, oh, pending home sales spiked up again, because interest rates went lower. Good, that's good news. People are buying, they're confident. But if it's dropping, and interest rates are dropping, then we have a confidence problem with the economy. Okay? And that could lead to a whole bunch of other things. Unemployment's a great number to know. You know, because if unemployment's going up, people are losing jobs. People losing jobs can't afford mortgages. Kind of simple. It's not rocket science. Right? But that number comes out on the 19th typically, and then unless it's a holiday, and then the 21st typically is when the home sales numbers come out for actual sold, unit sales, median sale price, that type of thing. So March was, on the 21st of this month, we'll find out what March was. Okay? So you'll say March was either up or down in units and up and down in price. And a lot of times you can be up, you can be down in units, but your price can be up, and that's a supply-demand factor. We can also have issues where, when we had the government shutdown that began in January, that impacted, you know, the numbers too. So a lot of times that could, the report that comes out can get skewed by an event, because 40,000 homes a month were being taken out of closing because of, you know, FHA and VA loans. They weren't able to operate. So unit sales were down, yes, but because government shutdown.
Specific to
Yeah.
one thing.
Okay? So, in this tree of what you're going to see is the offers, the acceptance, you can counter. Eventually, when you go into contract, you're going to then order your inspections. Very rarely will you do an inspection beforehand. Can it happen? Yes. But your client's spending money on a property, and if they find out that they don't like the inspection report, you know, they're spending on something they don't even have under contract. In the meantime, someone could come and take it and put it under contract, and they just spend money on something that someone else now gets under contract. So typically you won't see that happen, but on a rare occasion it will. Okay? And after inspections, like my inspection today, you know, what if there's an issue? Well, we address it. Is it major? Is it minor? Is it neither? And those are discussions you just have to have with your client and say, how do you feel about this? Now, the nice thing is when we have a pretty good idea, oh, it's an electrical outlet that is not ground fault protected. So let's have a real quick conversation about some of these issues that come up so you can handle them. So, like the house that my client bought with the mountain view, well, here's a great example. Did the listing agent do their fiduciary duty up front? The answer is going to be quickly no. And she knows it because I pointed it out to her. And so she went running to a DB after she had a conversation with me. But the reality is, she listed the house. It's on the market 70-something days. They say it's X amount of bedrooms. Now, if you have let's say you have a septic system that says 2 bedrooms, and you're claiming it's a 3-bedroom home. Is that okay?
No.
No, it is okay. If you can do that. If it is in main listings public remarks section, you have to state in the public remarks where the public can see it that it's listed as a 3-bedroom home, but it has a 2-bedroom septic design. So you can do it.
And the bank's gonna qualify a loan for that?
That's different. I'm talking about, can you list it?
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because people can pay cash.
Okay, true.
And it could still appraise as a 2-bedroom and still make it.
Okay.
Okay? So, getting ahead.
Okay.
But good question. Okay? So, you have to have it in the public remarks. So, she didn't have it in the public remarks. She said the septic design was not available on disclosures. Okay? But somehow she knew how big the tank was. And the tank had 2 sizes. It was 1,000 gallons and 750 on disclosures. Well, it can't be both.
Yeah.
And how do you know if the septic design is not available? Just raises good questions when you look at disclosures, right? But representing someone buy and you gotta talk about things when you write an offer, but we can't fix what's being disclosed to us. What we can do is our due diligence after we go into contract and verify. So we do the inspection. I said, you know, right after the inspection, I'm going to, so about 2 days after we're under contract, what does she send me? The septic design, which isn't available. Well, where did that come from?
Hopefully she's not a KW agent.
No. And the funny thing is, they went to the town records after we went under contract and found out there was a septic design on file. And it's only 2-bedroom. But we're 72 days that it's been listed. So the listing agent had it listed for 72 days. I said, well, why wasn't this in the internal remarks? And why are we just finding out now that we're under contract when you said it wasn't even available and I have a discrepancy on the tanks anyhow? Well, we went to the town office and they were closed that day and we just went back.
It's 72 days.
That's what I said. So it took you 72 days to go back to the town.
Yeah.
So she wouldn't run into a DB. But anyhow, so, you know, the point is we're going to see information. You can't trust it. The only information you can trust is what you as an agent verify. So I don't care what a listing agent says online, you know, what on agent synopsis, on a disclosure. All I treat that as is that's information that they're providing. But I've seen many times when the book and page don't match up with the deed that they're providing. They provide a deed that doesn't have the same book and page that they're saying is, you know, right. So don't ever assume any of that information is correct. Just the fact is that's what they're giving you. Okay? So verify, we go through inspections, you know, we're gonna have reasons of things that we have to negotiate, and just remember what I said earlier today. It can't be win-screw, it's gonna be win-win. So there's always gonna be give and take, and don't go back looking for, I want this, and this. And here's another great example. If you're a good broker, and you're looking at a house, and let's pick on this house right here, this nice colonial, and I see a whole bunch of things loose up here. Do I think that maybe the shingles are bad and need to be replaced? Yes. Could I see that? Was it obvious? The seller's not hiding it, right? So when I write my offer, I should be thinking about that writing the offer, not waiting for an inspector to tell me it's a crappy roof, right? Now, what I do want to go back and ask for is the things I could not see. The smell of, you know, the presence of radon air. You can't see it, you can't smell it. That's why we test for it. If it comes back high, I've got something legitimate to go after. If I didn't go to the house with a ladder the day I was showing it and crawl into the attic space to see if there's mold, then I'm waiting for the inspection to tell me that. But if I can go in the house today and I can see mold, I don't need someone to tell me that. Take it into account. Let your client know that these are issues that are going to come up at the inspection. If you're walking through a house and you see electrical outlets that don't have covers on it, point it out. Tell them. Make them aware. Let them know. This will come up on an inspection report. It's not new news today, the day of the inspection. Okay? If you see 3 steps and there's no railing, point it out. This is our job. This is what we do. Now, by doing that, you're setting the expectation that they're not going to nitpick on everything that's pointed out in the report. Because the inspector needs to do their job. And their job is to point out everything. Now, they're also going to point out, great example, house built in 1860. Do you think GFI outlets were around in 1860? Mm-hmm. Right? Do you think the stair treads are even today's code? No. But does it mean it's not code for when the house was built? It was code. So if there's no GFI outlet near a sink in an old home, is that a problem? Not really. No. Is it going to be recommended that you put a GFI outlet there? Yes. But was it code when the house was built? No. GFIs weren't even invented. That's really like saying, well, you need to have a cell phone next to the sink. They weren't invented when the house was built. So it's only a problem if you make it a problem. So you just, when you're there and you see that, point it out. You know, you're gonna need a GFI outlet here. That's an electrical thing. It's not a big deal. Point it out then.
There's certain loans are gonna probably insist that you make
certain things, but they don't get the inspection report. Okay?
That's good.
So
the
the
appraisal, right?
No, the inspection report belongs to the person that's paying for it, the buyer.
Yep.
Okay? Now you can share a summary with the other co-broker when I'm asking for an investigation contingency amendment, and I'm asking for a price adjustment or whatever. Okay, now here's the other thing. How do you want to kill a deal? What's the best way? Start writing BS in an investigation contingency. Now, ready for that? So, we have a called purchase and sale agreement, 4 pages long. Now, we do inspections, and what comes up? Investigation contingency. So now, Mr. Realtor's gonna become a lawyer and start writing sentences, right? No. We don't do that, okay? You wanna keep a deal together. All we care about is the buyer being compensated where they're happy for the issues that came out in their inspection report. So let's say there's 20 grand of inspection issues in total, what you can estimate, and honestly, they only care about 10 grand. Like, let's say they need a new leach field, okay? So let's say that might be 10 grand. Or they have arsenic in the water, whatever. But they're asking for 20 because maybe there's one rotted piece of wood underneath a windowsill. Maybe there's a railing that's missing. Maybe there's something else. You know, a small section of the house needs some shingles put on. So they're thinking, well, if I could get all that, that'd be 20 grand, but really what I care about is the 10, right? So you ask for 20, they come back and say, you know what, we'll give you 13,000. And then you renegotiate, you either agree or you don't agree, or renegotiate again. But here's the thing, on the investigation contingency, you don't want to point any of that out, because you can send that along to your co-broker, attached with either, with the consent of your buyer, the full inspection report, or a summary report with photos. You can pick and peel the photos out of the report and what they're talking about and what they want. Or you can send the whole report with their permission. Okay? That goes to your co-broker. Your co-broker might share it with the seller, most likely will. Now they can see all the issues that are being pointed out, and they may say, oh no, that seems reasonable and fair, or they may want to negotiate it. But what you don't want to do is write in your ICA, because if they do agree, that's going to get turned into the loan officer. And the loan officer doesn't really care what you wrote, but guess who does? The underwriter who comes later in this process. He's the one that's going to kill the deal for you, but really you killed it because you worded it poorly. An example is that is you write, we want them to repair the rotted wood front steps. Okay, never use the word rot, okay? Don't start writing. Just, who do you want to repair the property? Do you want the seller who didn't take care of it in the first place to repair it as they're moving out? Think they're gonna get the best contractor to do the best job? No. It's gonna be your client's home. Your client should be in charge of everything, in my mind. It's my mind, okay? But trust me, you want your client to take care of their future home, not the seller who's leaving, who didn't take care of it in the first place. So all you care about is them getting compensated monetarily. So you can ask for more points and closing costs that might cover the difference, but you gotta check with your lender what your maximum is. That's one way. You could say you need $3,000 in closing costs. You could say you need $3,000 price reduction, but that's it. Don't get worried. Then you, communicating with your co-broker, are sending it over and saying, hey, the reason we're asking for this is because of this, and I've included it in the report so you can explain it to your client. So they don't just think you're asking out of the blue. You've got legitimate reasons to ask. Does that make sense? So really, all you wanna do is talk about price when you write an investigation contingency or closing costs. You don't wanna talk about what the real issues are.
Would you just write in there, you know, repair steps, repair window? You just write $15,000?
I'm writing a number because I don't want them to have to do anything. I want my client to do it all.
So how are they gonna know, and I definitely get that, you want your client to get cash and not get, you know, work done. But how is, if you're just writing down just a monetary value and sending it back to them?
I'm including the report with the issues.
Okay.
And I'm communicating that with the broker. Remember I said I called the broker and
So who, in that report that you're sending is the report that was given from doing the inspection?
Yes.
You're just passing the inspection on?
But you need your client's permission.
Okay. But wouldn't the inspector write down rotten steps and all this
Yeah,
stuff?
but you're missing the point.
Okay.
The report is going to the co-broker,
Okay.
who's gonna share it with the seller. The seller's not getting a loan. So they're not communicating with the lender.
Okay, gotcha.
See how people kill deals? Cause they don't understand what they're saying and
You
doing.
wanna keep that information away from the buyer's
Yeah, the lender
source
won't
of
ever get
getting
the
his loan.
I don't wanna, here's the thing, I don't want you to think I wanna keep and hide something from the lender. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is making sure we get the closing. Okay? There's a difference. If you talk about peeling paint, like if you get an FHA loan, they're gonna mention it anyhow. The appraiser's gonna come out, point it out, and that's gonna have to get fixed before you close, even if it's January, okay? So I'm not saying avoid things, but don't create issues. Don't create a reason for your deal to fall apart. That's not your job. Your job is to keep a deal together, okay? So the best way to keep a deal together is make sure your client is happy on how they're getting compensated for the issues that we're talking about. Because we are talking about the broken window, we are talking about the rod, and it has a dollar value. If you had to get Johnny Repairman to come out here, it's gonna cost $1,000 to fix these stairs. Okay, it's $1,000.
So, yeah, go ahead.
It's hard for me to keep my mouth shut
Yeah.
always. One of the things too that I'd like to mention is when you're in a seller's market, your job is to make sure that your buyer understands that they are not buying a perfect house. None of these homes that I'm showing to you are gonna be perfect. And they're all going to have issues, every one of them. A brand new house is gonna have issues. So we want you to have that building inspection so you know what those issues are. However, you're in a seller's market. So chances are that seller may not do anything for you.
Right.
So you have to decide if you wanna buy this house with the issues that the building inspector has brought up. And in my experience and Paul's, the building inspector doesn't feel like he's earned his keep and earned his money unless he has given you a laundry list of things that need to be done. So setting it up when you're riding around in the car with them, that when we get ready to write an offer and you have a building inspection, chances are your seller is not gonna do much for you. Now they may. So then you've under-promised and over-delivered. But the reality, Paul, isn't that true in a seller's market?
And I mentioned earlier about every house has a problem, brand new construction. And, I had mentioned I had three brand news under contract and one resale, which is part of the inventory issue, But every house has a problem. But what you don't want the problem to be is you and your wordiness and your stupidity on how you write your contract stuff. That's what I'm saying. So when it comes to investigations, if your house wants, and what I would say, what Dottie was saying is about the house, but remember Scripps? You can borrow this and use it forever from me, okay? I tell buyers, we're gonna look at a lot of houses, but we're gonna find one home. Okay? So remind them, like Dottie was saying, remember this is gonna be your house, and I would change that word, because they have found their home. So I would say, remember, this is gonna be your home. Do you still wanna move forward with your home. Gotta get to the heart, so that they're not freaking out. Listen, you should have seen this and you should have pointed it out. You should have known it was an old house, and here's the sink, here's the outlet, and it's not GFI protected. Wow, my eyeballs can see that. As an agent, I'm supposed to point that out. If I go down to the basement and I see an old electrical panel and it's got fuses, don't you think I should be talking about that with my clients? Now, we come back and they still want to write an offer on the house. So we sit down and I pull my comps and I do all my comps. But I'm sitting down with them and saying, all right, now you know it needs a new roof. You know there's no GFI outlet by the sink. You know it's got fuses. So what do you think we should offer? That's the first conversation before we fill in the blanks. I'm pointing things out. You still want to move forward with this. We're having that dialogue, so we're not waiting for Mr. Inspector to come and ruin the deal later. They're going to point everything out. They're going to point out there's no handrail. Yet this electrical outlet doesn't have a cover, and you can see the wires hanging down. They may have the caps on them, but it's going to get pointed out. What we can't see is a bad leach field. We can't see air radon. We can't see mold in an attic that we can't get into the crawl space. Okay? Those are things you legitimately can ask for later. That's what I'm saying. This is how you keep your deals together. You don't become Mr. and Mrs. Creative Writer. Keep it simple, stupid. And what mine normally says, ICA typically says, by signing below, both seller and buyer agree to the following terms. New sale price to be. Period.
What was it, new sale price?
To be.
To be what?
Whatever it is.
Oh, okay, all right.
So if we wanted a contract for $295, and now we want it to be $290, that's what I say. And then I usually say, all other terms and conditions remain in force. Did I say anything about rot, broken glass, electrical outlets? No. I'm not going to kill the deal. My job's to get him to go to bed in the colonial home at night. Get to the top of the staircase. Close the deal. That's what this class is. Close the deal. You want to close deals, don't be the agent killing them. So everything you begin to write about rot or this or that is a deal breaker for the underwriter.
Leave all that in the inspection.
Yeah, the inspection
That's it.
report is separate. Everything's separate. It's like previewing a home is separate from writing an offer. Okay? An inspection is separate from getting a loan. An appraisal is separate from an inspection. They're different terms and they have different meanings.
And our seasoned agents like Paul, I would be willing to bet you never have a deal fall apart due to the building inspection. Once they've shown the property,
Yeah.
they've set the buyer up correctly, they've written the right offer, and they go to closing. And it's our inexperienced agents that don't have those abilities yet to keep that couple or person comfortable through that process. They've done all the work. They've shown the houses, they've written an offer, they've presented the offer, and they've been to the building inspection, and now we have what we call a fall-through.
Yeah.
And our fall-throughs, I can always look at them, and they're not falls.
No. I mean, and we talked earlier about getting to the closing on time. In my career, I can think of less than a handful of closings that we move the closing date. We get to the closing on time, as promised, as delivered. It's the way I operate. It's simple. I set the expectations with my clients by meeting them. I tell them I'm walking them through the whole process. Like I said to you guys, I take control. It's pretty simple. It really is. What we do is not rocket science. What amazes me is how people kill deals because of their stupidity. I hate to say it, but it's true. Yeah. So don't get creative. The only thing you care about is my client going to be happy if they get a $5,000 concession. whether it's on sale price or a contribution to closing costs. And that's something you can talk to them about. Would you rather come to the table with $5,000 less out of your savings? Or would you rather have your sale price that you're gonna be making a payment on for 30 years, you know, be $5,000 less? It's their choice. But don't overpromise on the closing costs, because you gotta check with your lender there. Because if you already asked for some, and now you're adding some, what's the maximum you can have? Because if you exceed the maximum, it just benefits the seller. And you don't wanna look like a fool. And that's a whole nother discussion. Right. Last thing you wanna do is find out that, what happened to my $5,000 in closing costs? Well, it was only $3,700 because, you know, we exceeded what you allowed. And now that net's gonna go to the seller, not the buyer. Okay? Clear title. There are times when all of a sudden title is not clear. Maybe someone didn't sign off, or a mortgage didn't get discharged. So, you know, the title company does their work, it's not our job, but the reason that they're doing it is to make sure that the title is clear. Now, here's where closings can get delayed, is when a surprise comes up on the title, and all of a sudden you're 2 weeks away, and it may take up to 30 days to clear the title. So, just know that the contract, where it talks about closing date and title, it talks about the title, and you say, I want a warranty deed, or I want a, quit claim deed. In that paragraph, it talks about the seller having up to 30 days to remedy the problem if there's a problem. So read your paragraphs in the contract so you understand them. And I will say this, I'm the only buyer agent I know to date, and I don't know, Dottie deals with some DB issues that I don't get to see, but I'm the only buyer agent I know to date that held earnest money from a seller. Did you hear that correctly? Earnest money from a seller. Because who normally puts the earnest money in?
Buyer.
Yeah. Right. So we had a contract years ago when I was fairly new, $700,000 property, and we were under contract for a month and a half. Everything's moving along. We had like a 3-month closing window just because of the time frame that everyone wanted. So we're all in agreement on that. And the closing was going to be like June 10th. Well, all of a sudden, a month and a half into it, seller's like, oh yeah, I kind of wasn't thinking, and you know, I'm going to have my daughter's graduation in the house. You know, she was graduating high school. Now it's going to be like June 21st. And so he's like, I still want to sell to the buyers, but I'm not moving out until after that. Well, we have a legal binding contract, and that's not, you know, once you go under contract, the buyer's in control, not the seller. So the point about mediation in a purchase and sale, you need to understand that sellers can default, remember the clause default to mediation. Both the seller and the buyer can default on a contract. Most people think it's about, ooh, the buyer default. I am witness to tell you, sellers can default, okay? Then of course everyone agrees to go to mediation, and if it doesn't get resolved in mediation, then big boy lawyers, and it could drag out for years, okay? So that gets into a whole nother conversation about recommendations about earnest money, but we'll save that for another day, okay? So, the point is, sellers can default just as much as buyers. I think we all think that buyers default more often than sellers, but I don't know anyone that ever held. We had 20 grand of earnest money from the seller, and he paid my client 10 grand to move the date 2 weeks. Now, 10 grand to this guy meant nothing. It meant like going out and getting a large coffee, you know? No big deal. And it was worth it to him to pay 10 grand, and my client was moving from Falmouth to Wyndham, so it paid for his move, local move, so 10 grand more than pays for it. So it became a win-win. It's the only closing I had in my whole career where we kept the two parties separate at the closing table, for obvious reasons. But it happens. But you negotiate. The deal is still to get to the closing table, okay? So there's a way to get around the BS that comes your way. And we've pretty much seen it. But don't you be the cause of the BS. Don't you write stupid stuff. Just deal with what will make you happy, Luke, after this inspection report. 5 grand, 10 grand, 20 grand. What's the number?
20.
Great, let's ask for it. Now, you know you're not gonna get 20 in closing costs, so it better be sale price. Alright? Any questions? Okay, that's how you keep deals together. So, once you've got through all that, you know, you're just gonna basically get to the lender at that point and the underwriter getting involved, making sure that your client hasn't doctored any of their tax returns, that the same numbers apply. So here's the best way to also make it easier on your client. When you have, you know, you're going under contract and it's not cash, who does loans here? Loan deals? Yeah, good for you guys. No, we like cash. But, you know, we probably did a third of our transactions last year with cash, and cash certainly is much better, because you don't have to have an underwriter. You know, there's a lot of things, a lot of players that don't have to get involved that can mess things up. But when you got a loan, which is normal for most people, you know, there's a lot more players in this transaction. And, you know, the big one that can screw it up is the loan origination officer. If you don't have a great one, and I use the word great, okay? Good is okay, but good is okay, but great you want on your team, okay? And so, make sure you surround yourself with that talent. We talked about that earlier. You know, it's just that team, the leverage. And then you got the underwriter. So anything you put in writing is gonna go back to that underwriter, which is why you gotta be very careful on your ICAs. Okay? Or if you're even doing an addendum, where you have to write more. Remember, in our zip forms, there's a lot of drop-down things, like it might be about, you want a survey, or it might be about appraisal. You know, there's drop-down clauses. So make sure you're comfortable with those clauses if you use them. And they're pretty much not gonna fit in section 26, you're gonna need an addendum. But let it be either directly from the lawyer, that you cut and paste from an email, or it's something that is in the drop-down menu that you're not writing. Because once you start writing, you might as well just write a check to the real estate commission. Okay? And be prepared to lose your license and find a new job. Because that could all happen. Alright? So, you get through underwriting, and you're gonna get a clear to close, and you're gonna transfer of funds, or they're gonna get the check, and all this and that. Biggest conversation you can have with your buyer when you go into contract, okay, is very simple. Luke, congratulations, you're under contract. Now, I need you to listen to me and listen to me carefully. If you want to go out and buy furniture or a car or whatever, you can't do any of that until the day after closing. So, I want you to understand what I'm about to tell you, and I want you to listen. If you want to spend more than $200, Luke, you call me first. You understand?
Yes.
Okay, what do you understand?
Don't spend over $200 on a talking to me.
Thank you. That is a real conversation. Because they could be living in their car and not in the home because they went out and did something stupid like bought a new couch and a sofa, chair, and that just tipped the scale with their debt to income, just killed the loan. So if you want to do your client justice, you have real conversations with them. Scare them. And let them know, here's the better part about that. They'll love this. If they went out and did that, and they were under contract, they have a legal binding contract, right? So who defaulted on the contract? And they did it purposely. They bought something they should not have bought, which changed their debt to income, just like if they quit their job. They did it purposely. Now, who do you think could be sued? Right? For the lost money on the sale of the home and maybe the loss of their other home. So it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you're not having these real conversations as an agent with your client and you're not scaring the bejesus out of them, you're not really doing them any favors. Put the fear of God in them. Okay? Let them understand this is serious business. This is not, you know, like going out and buying a new pair of skis and ski boots. This is serious. And there are legal ramifications to what they do. So congratulations, you're under contract. Do you understand the legal ramifications now? What are you talking about, Paul? Well, let me give you some examples. I'm not saying you're gonna do that, but it's possible. We've seen it all in this business. I had one guy go out and buy 2 brand new cars just before closing.
What? Why would you be so stupid? That's so stupid.
But they are.
His garage was gonna be empty.
But we were very fortunate that it didn't change his debt to income enough to kill
Oh
a
my
deal.
goodness.
But it very well
That's
could have.
bad.
And for most people, it should have. But there was a great example of someone who could have killed the deal.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I got, lots of examples I could talk about, but,
I'm sure.
so basically the contract closed, you get an offer, you're gonna get acceptance, you're gonna have a counter offer probably, then hopefully you'll get it accepted again or rejection, and then once you finally get accepted, you're gonna begin the inspections. So we're now about halfway, maybe a third of the way up the ladder, staircase, Still many things to do along the way, but we're there. Then you're gonna, maybe deal with the inspection issues, maybe not. Then we're gonna wait for the underwriter and the appraisal to come back, and the underwriter to make sure that the comps that the appraiser is using are good comps. Here's another example. So we all try to be helpful. So let's just say right here is in an ideal world, this is 1 mile from the subject property, okay? So the appraiser is using a comp over here, a comp over here, a comp here, right? At least 3 comps of solds that sold ideally in the last 3 months. So in Maine, that's really tough to get 3 identical homes within a mile that sold in 3 months. We're not in big subdivisions. That's the ideal scenario for an appraiser. So sometimes he might have even more, right? And let's say there's this many. But all of a sudden he's using one over here and one over here, and he's ignoring this one, he's ignoring this one. So here's where the underwriter comes in. And, appraiser's trying to work with you and make it work for the contract. But the underwriter's like, well, why'd you miss these 2? Because he could pull them up. He's got all the access to all the solds. And the underwriter's gonna say, no, I don't agree with your appraisal, and now the appraisal can get rejected. So just because an appraisal comes in and it says it's okay, it's not okay until the underwriter clears it. Just so you know, there's another stumbling block from the time the appraisal comes in, from the appraiser and gets to the lender, to the lender's underwriter approving it. Okay? Once you clear that, you're finally going to get that clear to close, which will happen just before the closing. Now, one more thing of how a deal can fall apart. Your buyer, and remember, you're representing sellers too, so you want to be on top of all of this on the other side. Okay? Your buyer forgot to pay the CMP bill last month, or some other important bill. And now the credit gets pulled 3 days before the closing, and we got a late fee, or a ding on the credit. Maybe the ding's bad enough to drive their score down to not get the loan. Now what? They're not going to be closing. So your credit report will get pulled again, usually 3 days, 2 days before the closing. So you gotta remind, this is why this $200 conversation is so important. You gotta remind your client that not only when you go into contract, you don't spend $200 without talking to me, but you pay everything on time. You do not miss one bill. Do you understand me? Get confirmation, okay? It's so important. All right, what else? checklist. We have buyer agent and listing agent checklist. I would suggest that in this booklet you use them, okay? Quickly, I'm not gonna go over them. We could talk about any and all of this, but you'll see this is a great tool, like attain loan approval, negotiate for repairs and treatments, blah, blah, blah. So just ask yourself, where am I in the process? And check this off as you go along. So there's one for buyers and there's one for listing agents. And that was page 18 and 19. Okay? Now, we've talked about a lot of these things. How do things go wrong? You know, surprise findings, who pays. So I always say there's a solution to everything, right? And I even have this conversation before I go out. So when I'm meeting down here with them, and they're in the office, I like to say to folks, listen, we're gonna start looking at houses, we're gonna find a home, and eventually you're gonna be under contract. And then you get to the closing. But there's a lot of things we're gonna do, but here's the thing. Every house has a problem. So some houses, if we're in rural communities, they're most likely gonna be a septic system, gonna be on a well, you know? We're not gonna have public water, public waste. So your inspection costs up front are gonna be more. You might be spending $1,000 to $1,500 on inspections versus $500. Okay? So just know up front, you're gonna outlay more money when we're looking at rural properties. You might have more issues to deal with, like arsenic in a well, or radon air in a property, or a bad leach field. Here's the good news. Every problem has a fix. There's only one question about the fix. Who's paying for it? Is the seller paying for it, or is the buyer paying for it? Or are both parties agreeing to meet halfway? That's it. So we know every problem we come across, whether it's water in the basement, which also increases the value of your home because you're now with a water view, okay? Water views, people pay more for those. So, have fun with it as you deliver some of this news, is what I'm saying, okay? The fact is, everything can be solved. It's just a matter of who's paying for it. And that's where we're gonna negotiate. And we won't know until we get to the end. But that's, you know, that's why you have me. I'm gonna walk you through every step, so none of these things are a surprise. And when I'm looking at a property that is, say, in suburbia, where there is a well, or there is septic, I'm looking at the disclosures as we're at the property, or prior to getting there, and then I'm saying to these folks, oh, by the way, I want you to know, you know, they did disclose that this is a 2-bedroom septic design, even though they're selling it as a 3-bedroom home. So it's really valued as a 2-bedroom home, and you need to know it's a 2-bedroom septic. Now, if you need to expand the leach field and the tank's big enough, you know, it might cost you, you know, $3,000 to add another chamber, but just know that up front. Okay? So you can have these great conversations as you're walking through a home, pointing out what you can notice. That's your value as a realtor. Okay? We talked about appraisals and some of the problems that could come up there. We just talked about that. You know, we talk about documentation delays. You know, when you're in that loan approval, you know, your client could be the problem. Your client could not be responding to the lender in a timely manner. So once again, put the fear of God in them. We're under contract. We have a legal binding document. You need to perform. So now it shifts from, we've done the inspections and all that. This now shifts from me to you getting all the documentation to the lender, because it's all about financing the rest of the way. Okay? So you need to be responsive, and you let your lender know, by the way, if my client's not responding in a timely manner, will you let me know so I can have a conversation with them? So this is why your team is so important. There's other contingencies. If you're a listing agent, you might see an offer where the buyer needs to sell a home, and you gotta have that dialogue with your client, like, do you want to wait and be out on the hook like that? What if they don't sell their home? You took your home off the market. Or do you want to still seek offers and blah, blah, blah. So there's lots of conversation to be had. The other agent could be the death of you, okay? Your co-broker might be not as strong as you. I see that all the time. And a lot of times I'm helping a new agent navigate and get there, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that. It's like, well, here, let's just do this. Let's add an addendum. You know, we don't have to put them down. Let's just say, let's do this. Are you okay with that? And, you know, they're looking sometimes for your guidance. But also, they could be the death of you. And we don't talk bad about any agent as a realtor. You know that. That's part of your code of ethics. Okay? So we can get frustrated with agents, but I want you to remember, I had an agent once steal my client. I literally had a client, and he took that client and went back to his office and wrote an offer, even though they told him 4 different times, I have an agent, and who it was. So we won't get into that, but what I'm saying is, there are agents out there like that. You don't want to be that agent. But the agent's still in business. The point is, I know in the future I may have to deal with that agent again. So I'll just be that much more ahead of the curve the second time around versus that first time around. So always remember, no matter how good or bad your co-broker is, you may want to badmouth them, but don't. And just know your second experience, you might have a second experience with them, just so don't say, I'll never work with them again, because you can't control who your buyer is and what property they want to see. So just have the mindset that I may have to do business with them again, but I will be smarter the second time around. Okay? Dottie's, you know, when I was a team leader, one of the greatest scripts she ever gave me is always stay in curiosity. Simple script.
Heard that before.
Yeah, yeah, but always stay in curiosity. You know, and remember, there are agents out there that don't have what we have. They don't have Keller Williams. They don't have wonderful instructors that can help you and are willing to help you and will encourage you to call me. If you got a question, I'll answer anything I can, but you know you're supposed to call your DB first, okay? Because I'm not supposed to really be privy on some of the details. So what I would say, if you're calling another agent who is not a DB appointee, just say, you know, I got a property A, don't reference the address, don't reference necessarily all the specifics, just make it generic so we know enough to help you. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But you're fortunate because you've got that. There are many companies that those agents don't have any of that to turn to. Or their top agent, you know, does $3 million a year, which is nothing to really look up to. It may be on day one, but when you're far exceeding that, you know, you're going to look up to the person that's doing 12 million, 20 million. Okay? So you've got great resources here. And online. Deadlines. I talked about it briefly earlier. Just remember, the deadline is always 5 o'clock on the day you put in as your deadline. So you do not want to, as we talked about this morning, be sending something in 10 a.m. that morning when unfortunately the seller is on a plane to Australia and you won't be able to get a hold of him until well after 5 o'clock of the deadline. You are not serving your client correctly. Shame on you. And even if you would ask for an extension, it's probably too late because they're not going to be able to get to that person. So now what? Technically, the seller could say, oh, too bad. We didn't have it resolved by 5 o'clock, so the contract's still valid at what we already had. And you try explaining that to your client about how you did not do your fiduciary duty. So you get your inspections done ASAP, and you work with people who can do it ASAP. And if they can't, go on to someone else. Okay? So there's checklist here. We talked about those. Deadlines. We've got all kinds of deadlines. So there's a quote here on page 24. Remember, only you have one chance to leave a lasting impression. Okay? So, remember what I said, if you leave here today with just 2 words to remember, what are they?
Confidence, conviction.
Have the confidence and conviction that you know what you're doing, regardless of how long you've been in the business, because you can always turn to someone to get the answer you need to get. So don't go, well, geez, I'm only 4 weeks into it. If they didn't ask you, don't tell them. Just say, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Seller or buyer, I don't have the answer, but I'll get back to you by 5 o'clock today. Is that okay? Instill that you've got the confidence and conviction to deal with anything and everything. Because you've got the resources here. I can't stress that enough. My phone number is not a secret. It's on the Keller Williams roster. It's publicized all kinds of places. So, okay? All right, any ahas?
Yeah, what could kill the deal? All those, everything that you said that could kill the deal.
Yeah. Not,
Numbers.
I don't wanna scare you, but just know
No, it's good to know.
that we as an agent could be the worst thing. It's not even our client sometimes. Sometimes it's us. Sometimes it is our client. You know? What were you saying?
Oh, just right numbers.
Right. Yeah. Don't write sentences. When you start writing sentences, I want you to stop for a minute, put the pencil down or the computer, and just say to myself, what am I doing?
When did I get my law degree?
Yeah, ask
Right.
that question. And if you can say, I just got it and I have it, keep writing. Okay? Now, we do have Tom Coward, who's a lawyer, and we have access to someone who is a lawyer who could help. But you can also ask your client, look, you want all this written about the fence and the playground and this and that. You're getting into legal work. Have your lawyer draw it up, get it to me, and I'll cut and paste.
But how many people that are out looking to buy a house have a lawyer that they can call? Wouldn't that kind of make, if I'm buying a house and this is all new for me, and I'm asking
The
you
answer
to
is
do
most
this.
don't, but then you surround yourself with leverage, and part of your team is an inspector, part of your team is a good lawyer. Real
Just
estate
part of
lawyer.
the title lawyer, right?
Well, no, title
Is
is,
that different?
title's different.
Okay.
Their job is to make sure there's marketable title,
Mhm.
that someone's not infringing on your property rights, okay? And they can make mistakes too. I took one of the classes earlier this year, and just a real quick example, we gotta go, I don't wanna keep you, but here's the property right here, and the house was here, okay? Water, here. 40 years, they go back typically 40, but 40 doesn't always cut it. Sometimes you gotta go back further. So there was a house here that really was supposed to have a view right that went here. This house was built after this. Somehow it got built, no one caught it, so when this house goes to sell, all of a sudden, there's a title issue. So luckily, this neighbor back here didn't, because they could have tore this house down. They agreed to a view right this way, long and short. The title company didn't even catch it. They got caught after the closing. So then it has to get fixed after the closing, which is why you may want title insurance. Okay. Any other questions? Any other ahas you want to share? All right, well, thanks for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Nice job, Paul.
Thanks. Good.
Great, really good, yeah.
Good.
I don't know whether Paul covered this or not, but we've had this issue before. When you have this binder, this offer that's going back and forth, and then all of a sudden, you've got a meeting of the minds, okay? So you've got a meeting of the minds. The seller has agreed to your counteroffer. You don't have a contract. So sometimes what we do is we say to the buyer, we're under contract, you know, but we're not under contract until everything is initialed. I don't know whether Paul got into that.
Yeah, we didn't actually, and that brings up a good point. So the other words you want to remember is time is of the essence. So you're like, oh, well, verbally the broker agreed to this with me and we're all set except we got to get this initial. Well, what if I submit an offer overnight and you're going to do it in the morning because you want to go to the movies with your kids, Wrong move. Wrong move, fiduciary duty. Cause now, I could come take that away, it's like, well, wait a minute, I thought we had an agreement, yeah, but sorry, they paid $10,000 more than you, the client wanted to pay, and it was still an offer, it wasn't a contract.
And that's happened to me. You
Yeah.
only let it happen once,
Right.
but an agreement at 11 o'clock at night, and I said, I'll come by in the morning and get the initials from your seller, okay? I get over there and the house is being shown.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the seller, who had agreed the night before to the deal,
Yeah.
okay? And I'm panicked, and so I said to him, your agent has sent me over to get your initials on here, and he goes, well, but I've got a showing.
Right.
And so I said, well, we had an agreement last night. He goes, yeah, but I kinda like to see what these people are gonna offer. So, shame on me.
Mm-hmm.
And what would have happened if I had said to my buyer at 11 o'clock at night, we're under contract? So, buyer would have been very angry with me because they went to sleep at night thinking
Mhm.
they owned the house.
They
We
probably opened
got
up
our
a bottle
house.
of champagne.
Yeah.
So
And
how would you, or how could you have, I mean, how?
I would have gone out at 11 o'clock at night
You
and
would-
gotten those initials, and
Okay.
I've done that ever since.
Okay.
And now you can do it
35
electronically.
years.
Yeah, I was gonna say, now we have DocuSign.
And I've gone
Doc-
and
Okay.
gotten them because
Mhm.
that happened, and it was a big transaction. It was a
Yeah.
very big transaction, and I lost and my buyer lost because I didn't go out at night. Now, you were hoping that everybody's going to be ethical, but that seller was looking out for himself, and somebody slips in there at 8 o'clock in the morning, and there I am standing in his kitchen, and
Was it a for sale by owner? Was he
no,
selling?
no, it was another agent, but the
So-
agent said to me, why don't you live close to there, why don't you go over, I'll let him know that you're coming at 8 o'clock and get his initials.
So who brought the other person in?
Another agent.
Another agent.
Oh, okay.
And so when you're in this seller's market, this could really happen to you too.
But in any market, it can happen.
Yeah, but it can really
So
happen.
time is always of the essence, which is a good point. So, we've seen it all, the many, many weird things, and we keep seeing new things, it surprises us.
Yeah, the beauty of being here though, there's so many agents that you're gonna hear from, and I mean, I know there's things that even still happen now that I'll go, really, that happened, but, it does. So you're gonna be able to glean wisdom from so many different people.
Yeah. We've got great people, great leadership,
See, producing that?
Yeah.
so, thank you.
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll get these tables set back
Thank
up,
you.
and you're obviously
Yeah.
welcome to stay as always.
Good job.
Sorry. Your property disclosure?
My property was that I wrote.
Yep.
I have 1986 is the roof.
So I got,
And I have 2018 as original construction.
we're trying to set it up.
So,
So I-
So
So
he
how do
has
I run
all
it?
the foreclosures in the state. So he's just a listing agent. You have to hire a company. So you could be a-
are you already, you're on a contract, right?
It doesn't matter. You wanna show him and he
Yeah.
chooses
I would
not to
call
go
him.
after something that's a good deal,
Right. Oh, yeah.
then that's his choice.
And then say, okay,
But
what I'm gonna do
he
is
may,
one line it,
what I
add
like
the
to do
correct
is say,
date,
talk to him and.
have my
that
client
way
sign
it's
it,
not kept
initial
like
initial
he
that,
lost
initial the change, and then have your
because
client
there's so
sign
many
it.
offers that come in.
That's what I figured.
Doesn't have to be a big deal.
I didn't think.
So long as they're not, are you the buyer?
Have the deed.
You're the seller.
They have the deed.
Are they in the construction period? So they could walk away from one anyway. That's they're effective.
They did.
Yes, one liner, initial change, and your
That's what he
client,
said.
have them initial,
Well, that's what he
and
said.
then you get that.
Well, what we ought to do is show them these two,
Like we just said, so you have two
because these
initials on there?
foreclosures,
Right.
one is in
The other thing, mortgage officer.
They're both rehabs, they're foreclosures.
Good luck.
Very good to meet
This
you, my
one
friend.
has
Thanks for
more.
all your help.
You're welcome.
So, what you wanna do is just maybe,
Appraisal. Haven't heard
we
about
wanna
it.
just,
So I'm not.
could
Thank
write,
you very much.
I
Good
would
luck.
write that
Nice
letter,
meeting you.
but
My name's Paul.
maybe
Yes,
what
I
we
know
ought to do
Paul.
is
You
just
can call
have
him.
them so we can show
I'm
them.
gonna call the agent.
Is this what you're kinda looking for?
Cause we already have.
You know,
When's it closing?
It would be
30
very
days?
silly of him
Well, yeah, it's a little more
to
than
have a
that.
personal
I wouldn't
issue
worry about the
against
appraisal yet.
making a good
Yeah, a lot of times
investment.
the lenders
Oh,
will
yeah,
wait
yeah,
till
right,
after
Yeah,
right.
so we can get over that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
they
can
don't
get that.
have to charge the
Okay,
buyers
cool.
for
So
appraisal
this is,
that.
you take those.
Oh,
Alright,
oh,
great.
oh, right, that makes
Um,
sense.
12 o'clock.
I typically follow up with my lender right
Alright.
around the end of the inspection period.
Alright,
So
so,
if you're only 3 days into it,
trying to think of one now.
it's good that
So
you're
if
on
it,
it.
so if it
Just said,
doesn't
um,
raise after paying
um,
13, the dealer.
They're not doing the appraisal.
Don't-
the
don't tell
appraisal
them about
until
this,
a
till we
week
meet.
before.
No.
They're ready to order it.
He just said
Even if
no
they
on
order it right now,
Wednesday.
it's gonna take two
Month
approvals for
Anthony.
that.
Okay,
So you typically get it a week or two before.
okay, so
So
the
it's a last minute
financing
thing.
is gonna fall.
Yeah, and maybe we could do Thursday after bowls or something.
This property, I'm not worried about.
Thursday
What kind of
is
finance?
booked up.
Well, whatever.
Okay, yeah, alright.
Now,
100%?
did David talk
Why
to you
did
at
you
all?
tell?
It's this office right here,
Probably.
and there's only one
What
person
would you
there.
probably do? Present them all on offers?
What do you mean? Oh, you mean why did the seller go with that one? Best
Best
finance.
price.
Best price by far.
Yeah, in the house, you're not worried about the condition of the house? 3,500. How much was the one that was for 3,500 less? What kind of financing was that?
Well, I say that it actually came in after a contract, and it's an organization. It sounds like it's kind of like, not an investment. It sounds like it's kind of like having they buy and flip. It actually came through from the president of my real estate company. She sent me off in WhatsApp, and I said, "Do you want to be back up?"
You can follow up with the lender about the appraisal, I just, by all means do it, just if you have clients.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. She's also on my vendors list, which is cool. Nicole Savage over at Atlantic Regional.
Good, it's good to start building those relationships.
Yeah, no, I was really happy when I saw her come across. It was like, oh, this is one of my vendors. But,
Does anybody know how to stop this without deleting it?
so other than that, everything is kind of going along.
Okay, good.
So, go to see David and he will give you the key. Okay. And, okay.